here in the tippy top of Mount Manitoba. Okay, it's the 19th floor, but who's really counting? And you're not going to visit me anyway. This is Not in Hall of Fame, and this is Kirk Buchner. That'd be me, and I run Not in Hall of Fame, the Fictitious Athlete Hall of Fame, the Fictitious Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, the United States Athletic Hall of Fame. And when you're done listening to this, I want you to go to that www.notinhalloffame.com/USA, and you can vote on who you think should be the members of the first class of the United States Athletic Hall of Fame. Sounds good, right? Well, with me as always here in the Classic Sports Review is the Intercontinental Champion of all triathletes. How does that work?
I love that title.
Yes, you have that title. It's Glenn Paslawski. How did he get it? Well, he's the greatest athlete ever to come out of the city of Buffalo, the one of the most amazing triathletes ever, and he's defended that championship in Antarctica multiple times. He's going to be going there and defending that again. And Glenn, you and I, we've had some special guests on the show. We have had an Olympic bronze medalist who in the decathlon. Yeah. We have had a member of the Pro Football Hall of Fame, actually in the fan division, the Violator. He's the super fan of the Raiders. A legend. Yes, a legend. We have had a 7-time Pro Bowler in Richmond Webb on this show. But we've topped it.
Absolutely. We went to the to get this guy.
Yeah, we got the bottle guy.
Yeah, I am a world-class bottle returner, first in the Hall of Fame. If there was a Mount Everest of bottle returns, it would be me. I started when there were no machines, and I've been covered with ants, with any kind of alcohol you can imagine. So I hold that title in great esteem. So it's an honor to be here.
And we had to have the bottle guy here. Do I call you bottle guy BG here the whole time, or do I just call you by your given birth name?
Bottle guy BG. More people know me by that name than they know. My real name is Chris Pateri. It's nice to meet everybody out in the world, out in cyberspace, live the hard drive. But yeah, people know me more as BG. So whatever you choose, BG is good.
BG it is. And unlike another BG that a lot of people know, bottle guy knows not when he goes to Russia not to bring his drugs.
I am a little smarter than that.
The funny thing about that is when the whether it was I don't know, they were with their fundraising or something, and they came out with the free BG. I was just getting back from Antarctica, and I saw that, and I'm like, "What the hell happened to Bottle Guy, and why do we got to free him?"
Put that on your Twitter too. I think I tagged him.
Well, they even have a whole university named after me, which they call it Bowling Green. But every time you go there, they'll have shirts that say "Let's go BG." So I just feel the love from Bowling Green University.
I had no idea that Megan Rapinoe was such a big fan of yours.
I attract all types.
Oh, there's a joke there. No, I'm not going to do it. Nope. I'm actually going to use a little bit of restraint, even though, yeah, Glenn, I started drinking already. I did it again.
Should be a good show then.
Oh, yes. Well, today we are looking at, in the Classic Sports Review, a baseball all-star game, and not just any baseball all-star game. I didn't actually know before I looked at this was actually going to be a really good game. I picked it because of what was happening or was about to happen a month later. It's 1994, specifically July the 12th, and a month after this, the baseball players would go on strike, and they would not come back. This would be, I believe, the first time ever that any championship in the Big Four, it just didn't happen. The whole thing was shut down. And as I'm looking back at this, baseball's still doing pretty well, relatively speaking. Glenn, you got your season tickets for the Buffalo Bisons. You're having a good time doing that. We all obviously still watch a lot of baseball. Bottle Guy was sort of spreading the word out for his favorite team, the Baltimore Orioles, in Baltimore. So obviously we're all still baseball fans. Having said that, as I'm watching this, I can see I'm taking myself back. 94, baseball was still the number one sport in the United States. I would argue that I don't know if it's number 3.
That's a fair point.
Football's past. I mean, that's without doubt. Basketball, I don't know if it has or hasn't, but the personalities have.
That's accurate. Yes, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. I would totally agree. I mean, when I look at my calendar and things I've got to organize with friends, it's always football, Yeah, and certainly basketball's up there just with the marketing and everything else, just the international appeal to it. And I mean, when I talk to kids, that's what they like to watch. I mean, some will go to baseball, but it's only because it seems like it's a parent thing. It's not just something, angled toward kids these days.
And that's very much different too. I mean, there's not a lot, and hopefully that's going to change. And I think maybe we're working our way towards that, where the old rules of baseball are sort of going by the wayside and giving way to more fun things. And I think with the new rules, I can't believe I'm praising Rob Manfred, but with the stolen base becoming more of a thing now, this is only good. The fact that it's a quicker pace with the clock. Maybe
Yeah, I
we're
mean,
going to see that again. And I think there's a big reason too. Like, again, we're three middle-aged white guys. Maybe I shouldn't sort of go here, but I'm going to. I think there's a reason why a lot of younger urban kids don't want to play baseball. Not because they can't, because it's not cool.
I mean, I talk to a lot of kids, many different ethnic backgrounds, and yeah, I mean, there's no baseball player, yeah, like you said, it just sums it up as cool. I mean, everybody, LeBron James, Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan. I mean, those are iconic players, not just in the sport, but in the world, movies, sneakers, everything. And baseball, okay, you got Mike Trout. He's really not that exciting. You got Vladimir Guerrero Jr., exciting, but not even out of the context of the sport, it seems.
Yeah, and that's really what we see here in 94, where we see a lot more people who were, in a way, I don't know if that larger than life is really accurate, but just bigger names in the zeitgeist of what was going on in 94 sports/pop culture. And I guess we'll just get right into it. Sorry, guys, Glenn sent me the one that without commercials, and then I made us watch the one that did have it because I just like all the other stuff. Because yeah, I'm that guy. You're the bottle guy. I'm that guy.
Yeah, TG, that guy.
You know, that guy.
Could have another guy in the mix.
Sometimes it's TFG, that fucking guy. NBC's got the broadcast, and already it's going to be a great broadcast because the voiceovers Bob Costas. Glenn and I on this show, we've watched some awful announcing or listened to some awful announcing. This is not going to be one of those times. I think we've sort of said the USFL crew was the worst.
Ooh, is that the one with Lee Corso?
Yes.
Corsi,
thank you. And who was the other one? Was it Jim Lampley?
That was an early Jim Lampley doing football on that call. Yeah, that was interesting.
Yeah. So it wasn't good, but we're kicking off with Bob Costas and this beautiful sort of like voiceover of everything, just talking about what baseball was. And this struck me right away. How they were doing they had all these little kids just sort of like looking up to their heroes. And they superimposed that with the current players talking about their heroes. So you've got Mike Piazza discussing getting encouragement from Ted Williams, Kirby Puckett talking about wanting to be Ernie Banks, Ken Griffey Jr. wanted to be Ken Griffey Sr. And this line, more than any other sport, baseball is about history and about comparisons. Still true.
Oh, absolutely.
Bob welcomes us to Pittsburgh, and I'll give these guys credit. They did not sugarcoat. There's an elephant in this room, and they went right to it in the first minute. This should be a respite from, he says, this should be a respite from all the peripheral problems, and hopes that it's going to be the midway point of a full season. So they're not saying that, okay, nothing to see here, folks. They're acknowledging that shit's bad. And one of the people they actually interviewed later, like before this, was Paul Molitor, who more or less told you, we're going on strike. And it's not our fault, it's the owner's fault.
No, that's very accurate. And throughout the game, I mean, it was the undertones of a strike were there, but they were still talking to the point where Williams, Griffey, Thomas, they got numbers that they're going to attack. You got Gwynn shooting for 400, on pace to do that, and still feeding into that notion that we're going to have a full season, and we're probably going to have one of the greatest baseball seasons ever in the books. So buckle up for the ride. Of course, later we know what happened.
Right, and because there was three people who legitimately had a shot at the then Roger Maris's home run title. Thompson, Griffey, like you mentioned, and also Matt Williams, who we'll be talking about a lot more later. So you have three legitimate people. Gwynn went into this game batting 388 or 386. He would finish the season, well, finish the season at 394. And this was the second year of expansion. And every time we have expansion, we have weakened pitching. It always hits that first. So it stood to reason that it was very possible that Gwynn could have done it. And
Oh, absolutely.
And
Kenny Lockwood had 378.
Yeah.
There were a lot, not a lot, but there were more than usual in that season. Right.
So I was going to say my favorite player of all time is Tony Gwynn. BG, I imagine from when we decided we were talking before we went on, it's Cal Ripken. Is that correct?
It is Cal Ripken. Tony Gwynn actually is probably a close second, and I did have the honor of going to Cooperstown to see both of them inducted at the same time.
Okay.
And Tony Gwynn was just one of those guys that he just seemed to transcend, and I didn't fully appreciate him until I started reading up on all of his stats. And I think there was some crazy stat that I forget the player, but there was like one player that struck out, I don't know, like 190 times, say, in a season. And they said, oh, Tony Gwynn struck out 190 times in a decade. And I think he also had a stat that, against like the elite pitchers of the era, he struck out a grand total of maybe like 13 times, and it against like people like Red Maddox, that was 0. So, seeing him go out there and remembering that 400 reach, I really think deep down that he would have pulled it off. I just almost would have put money on it.
I think so.
He would have hit it. Yeah, I think so.
Glenn, who was your favorite player of this era?
Well, being a Yankees fan, a suffering Yankees fan for up until the mid to late 90s, I was a Don Mattingly guy. Mm-hmm. And just what he did.
I guess technically my favorite Blue Jays here are Joe Carter, but for obvious reasons. Saying that, though, he was not my favorite player. The person that I always appreciated the most, and still do to this day, are the ones who always find a way to get on base. Not necessarily the power guys, but the ones who who don't have the physical gifts necessarily. Tony Gwynn was that guy. Especially in his later years, he would still bat 300 while his waistline was 300. It was...
Again, looking at this game, I mean, they were all thinnish. I mean, even Bonds didn't look gargantuan in this game whatsoever.
Oh, I can't wait to start talking about him. Holy shit. Well, it's an NBC broadcast. They're doing what NBC should do. I'm not going to go through every commercial, but I'm not. But just the ones that sort of stood out. And they're doing what they should do. They're promoting all the great shows that they're going to have. And it's the Martin Short Show. Well, we all like Martin Short.
Canadian and national treasure.
Sure. But anytime he ever got his own show, it stunk. And this one stunk. It lasted a whopping 8 episodes, where he played a character named Marty Short.
They may have filmed 8 episodes, but only 3 aired.
Only 3 aired? I got it wrong?
The series ran from September 15th to September 20th.
Look at you doing the research. Holy shit.
Glenn is Mr. Preparation. I am.
I'm glad you stopped there.
I almost went there, but I held off.
And I can't mute you or block you or kick you out of this one.
Oh, I know. That's why I'm on my best behavior. It's not going after you on Twitter.
Yeah, I cracked up when I saw the Martin Short commercial because he's so good in everything else. And I don't think I remember watching the show. It was on that part.
I thought it was a different show because he had another show.
He had a daytime show that lasted for a little bit.
I didn't even know that.
Oh, yeah. I dived into his Jiminy Glick character, and it was like a pseudo daytime talk show type deal, which was a little bit better. But yeah, I remember that show. I don't remember seeing the Martin Short show on NBC.
Well, apparently neither did anyone else. We're back from break, and we see Meatloaf talking to Phil Rizzuto.
And now, I thought during the national anthem, Phil Rizzuto should have had a role. I mean, he had a role on.
That's right.
Yeah. Something by the Dashboard Light. What was the name of that song?
Paradise by the Dashboard Light. I told you that story when I was in Barbados, right?
You probably did, but you've been out of Barbados for a long time. So if you want to retell the story, go right ahead. It's your show.
Please do. Please do.
Okay, so I was at a dinner party with my wife, and she was invited by somebody who owned this company where they fast track people to get into the country or to go through like security a lot quicker. And because my wife works at Fairmont, so that she got to know this person. And we were at her house, but she is one of the richest people on the island because she married pretty much this old fucking guy who was about like 80 years old. She's not. I'll leave it at that. And so we're basically at he was the richest guy on that island. He owned pretty much everything there. So there's four men here. There were four men. They were all alone. There was him, his right-hand guy, who also was spearheading all clean energy throughout the whole Caribbean, the American and the US ambassador. And then there's me. So, Kirk, what do you do? Well, tonight I'm doing a show about meatloaf. I was doing that song. No, I wasn't doing that one. I was doing because I would do anything for love, but I won't do that. So, because that went #1. I do other shows in the Buchner verse here, Bible guy. In case you're wondering.
Wow, very well rounded.
Sadly, my midsection would agree with you. I am very well rounded.
Aren't we all? Aren't we all? I hear you there.
But unfortunately, Rizzuto did not have a role in the national anthem.
No, well, there's Greg Gumbel talks about Griffey, because Greg Gumbel's here now, talks about Griffey and Frank Thomas and Matt Williams all chasing that, and they showed a projection that all three would get at least 60. Not for what it was worth, the person who had the most at the time of the work stoppage, it was Matt Williams at 43. We're joined by Griffey and Thomas, and I was noticing here that Thomas was not yet promoting Nugenics.
Well, I mean, his low T wasn't low; it was still high T.
I think that's the thing. When you're sort of you're in your prime athlete, you get all these commercial deals, and then now you become 50 and 60. All right, we got a commercial for you. All right, what is it? Is it for Gatorade? No, it's for people who can't get hard, because it's more or less, and she'll like it too.
It just feels like the mighty have fallen. I know they got to get a paycheck, but my gosh, it just brings this image I had of these players that I enjoyed as a kid, just down. I'm like, you're the big hurt just went the big, limp to me.
Well, no, he didn't. To his credit, he said he never said that he had that. He's just helping everybody else.
Well, he's a good man to help those who are looking to go in that direction. So
helping the less fortunate.
Incidentally, I think my shipment should be arriving soon because I am in that demographic.
Are they a sponsor?
They're not a sponsor of the show today. No, there's no sponsor today. So Griffey's asked if there's stress. He says no, and it's one of those rare times I actually believe an athlete. Because I think Ken Griffey just didn't sweat much of anything. They showed footage of the home run derby that Griffey won. My takeaway from that is that the stadium wasn't full.
No, I saw. And was the competition held in the daytime?
Looked like.
So it wasn't in prime time. Mm-hmm. Was it on TV? Because we're going back 30 years, and I'm pretty sure I wasn't tuned into daytime TV during that era.
I don't know. That's a good question. It's possible that it wasn't. We go back to the commercials, and we've got my favorite athlete of all time, Wayne Gretzky. He's pitching a camcorder. Of course, he's pitching a camcorder, or it looks like he crashed a wedding. I can't wait to see the other footage that wasn't part of that camcorder where Gretzky's passed out because he's a drunk.
He's got issues with alcohol.
Yes, he owns a wine vineyard. I guess it's just his own. You don't sniff your own supply. I think that's supposed to be the rule.
Quality control, Kirk.
I'm not judging drunks. If I did, I'd be looking at the mirror all the time.
Episodes were that proven.
Gumbel's talking to Matt Williams as we come back from break. I just wrote down Matt Williams, humble and boring. Gumbel, yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Gumbel says the strike date has not been set, and that's where we get the Paul Molitor bit where he says that pretty much it's going to happen. Talks about the main issue really is a salary cap. They never did get one, but we're pretty much close to that. Baseball, if you want to argue that it never did recover, I think we kind of did at the beginning, saying it's not the number one sport anymore. Here's my favorite one, my next favorite commercial. We've got a plug for a new show at NBC, The Cosby Mysteries.
We all know what the mysteries are.
Oh boy.
Episode 1. Okay, there's someone passed out. We got to figure out why.
I don't think it was the pudding pop or the pudding itself.
No.
But it does add a new view to all those pudding pop commercials.
I think my favorite thing is the Norm Macdonald thing when he said Patton Oswalt, he said, the worst thing about that is the hypocrisy. I told him that the worst thing about it was the rape. God love you, Norm.
Norm, gone too soon. Too soon.
Well, we're going to meet the All-Stars, and we're starting off with the trainers. Pretty big deal for them. Coaches are all Blue Jays for this because, well, the Jays won the World Series, and so they're American League representative. We got the coaches. Gene Lamont got a nice ovation because he used to play for Pittsburgh or coach there, and would later manage them. And Cleveland's Mike Hargrove. We'll meet the AL non-starters. From Baltimore, Mike Mussina.
Hall of Famer.
That was the day he signed with the Yankees. I remember Glenn messaging me, and that broke my heart. I would have loved Mike. I would have loved to have seen Mike stay, but I hoped he would have gotten a World Series, but I don't think it was ever meant to be.
Unfortunately, not. No. Baltimore again with Lee Smith.
Another Hall of Famer.
Another Hall of Famer. There's someone who's not. I had to look him up. I don't remember him. Boston's Scott Cooper.
Oh, the third baseman. Yeah,
so Boston's lone representative. He was actually the representative in '93 too. Boston really, it's hard to remember a time when Boston really stunk, but they were awful for a long time. California, we have Chili Davis. The White Sox have Wilson Alvarez and Jason Bray. I'll talk a lot more about him later. And probably maybe one of the worst All-Stars of all time is Jason Bray. And he showed that here. Cleveland's got Kenny Lofton and Albert Bell. Man, we're going to talk. I can't wait to talk about Albert Bell. Detroit has Mickey Tettleton and Travis Fryman. Kansas City, David Cohn. Milwaukee, Ricky Bonus. What did I write down? I wrote down how he looked like El DeBarge's gay uncle. And then I realized I don't know that El DeBarge has a straight uncle. So I don't know.
But we know he has a gay uncle.
And if he did, he would look like Ricky Bonus from 1994.
I love the fact that I'm learning something new every minute of this show.
If you're
learning education, kids, this is the place.
You're learning it from me. That's, yeah. Minnesota's Chuck Knobloch. The Yankees, Paul O'Neill. One of your favorites, Glenn?
Absolutely. I mean, he just the attitude, the fire, the competitiveness. Yeah.
And totally believable as Paul O'Neill in a Seinfeld episode.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, just so funny, that episode with George. Can you get me 2 home runs? 2 home runs? What do you mean 2 home runs? It's hard to get 1 home run and you want 2? No.
A lot better than Dan Marino as Dan Marino in Ace Ventura.
Oh,
that's true. Absolutely
better than that.
Well, Don Shula wasn't believable as Don Shula in his one little bit either. When he put his hand there, like, woo. Well, that could be a new impression. Don Shula in Ace Ventura. Woo. All right, I'm gonna get my webmaster master impressionist right there. Seattle's got Randy Johnson. Texas, Will the Thrill Clark. Toronto's Paul Molitor and Pat Henkin. And now the starting lineup. Our manager, Cito Gaston. Second baseman, Roberto Alomar. Uh-huh. Third base. Yes. Third base, Wade Boggs. Okay, so Glenn, how happy were you when you got Wade Boggs? And he was still Wade Boggs. He was still pretty damn good.
Still pretty good. I mean, I don't want to say that we were selling out to win a championship. Just the fact that he left Boston was a shock in and of itself. And that now you have Wade Boggs and Don Mattingly in the same lineup, building towards that championship run that would eventually come to be. But yeah, it was, you go from hating a guy for his, well, not hate's a strong word, but when it comes to Yankees, Red Sox, it's legitimate.
Right.
So it was weird to root for him.
I think with Boggs also too interesting. A lot of times they kept referring to him, you know, if Boggs was in his prime, he'd be hitting 400 and he's still batting over 330.
Well, you know, first off, that's why everyone hates Joe Morgan. I mean, I don't know how he lasted on Sunday Night Baseball as long as he did, but he would just say some stupid things. And that was one of them where, I mean, I get it. It's an expansion era. The pitching's going to be diluted. Yes, and this is where he's playing his old man card. George Brett would hit 400s. The other guy he was referring to, that's Rod Carew. And yeah, so Wade Boggs in his prime would certainly hit 300 or 400. But then on the flip side, you have Costas later on saying how incredibly difficult it would be for any of these three guys to hit 61 home runs. I mean, it's the same diluted pitching pool. But again, I mean,
Morgan was a power hitter, right? So you're not going into his wheelhouse.
No, but I mean, you have Griffey, Thomas, and Williams who are facing that same diluted pitching, and Costas is saying, well, it's going to be impossible for them to hit 61 home runs. And I think that's where Costas was kind of playing an old man card, so to speak, trying to cling to that Maris nostalgia of the coveted home run number.
When we talk about Joe Morgan, I mean, I'm as I watch old games of him play, like I just loved watching old clips of Joe Morgan. I think if I was a Cincinnati fan back in the day, that probably would have been my guy. And I remember, because I remember watching a lot of Phillies for whatever reason, and watching like the Wheeze kids with Rose and Morgan and all the other geriatrics who made it geriatrics, and I'm older than they are, which is messed up.
Morgan's was great.
But like I said to Glenn on the last show, it's not, I don't feel old when I get old. I feel old when the women I used to masturbate to are now seniors.
That will certainly make you feel old. I just saw that Donna Mills is pushing 80, and I remember her from back in the day, and that's landing, thinking, ooh.
I pitched a show to one of my other co-hosts, and thank God we never did it. And it was going to be called Who We Used to Jack Off To. I still might do it.
I was going to say, gee, what's stopping you from doing that, Kirk?
Yeah. Says the guy who sort of like pitched to Glenn an idea for a game show where now I'll save that for later.
Ooh, this I can't wait for.
Okay. Maybe you can. Ken Griffey Jr. batting third, Frank Thomas fourth. So look at these. That's our first four, our four Hall of Famers, and without a doubt, Hall of Famers.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. I mean, the whole American League lineup was stacked. And I think they addressed that in the pregame show where they basically said this American League team is head and shoulders above the National League team. But yeah. I mean, we'll get to them. I mean, there's nothing to sneeze at on the other side. It's just, you look at that starting lineup and it's just so dominant.
And the amazing thing is too, when I looked at it, you'd have that opinion in 94, and then you look back, you're thinking, well, how do they not destroy anybody? Because if we were to say then the worst batter is number 5, Joe Carter, and Joe Carter is, again, he's fresh off hitting the World Series winning home run.
Joe.
You touch them all, but advanced metrics are not his friend. When you look at everything, struck out a lot, didn't have a high OBP, defensively was But Joe Carter is, for a lot of people, Joe Carter can go anywhere in Ontario and he'll never have to buy a beer.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
And that's how
we did a show on that game, didn't we?
Yes, we did. Yeah, we did. We looked at that exact game, and I joked how there was like the 45,000 people in that stadium for that, and I think I've met 50,000 who say they were there.
Oh, you probably met 100,000.
Or about that. Well, the same as like if you looked at that Bills comeback game, right? Same thing.
Yeah, and everyone was leaving at halftime for that game. I mean, there
Yeah.
might have been 45,000 in the stadium by then.
Mhm.
And yeah, you're gonna talk about 100,000 people that probably claimed to be in that stadium for that game.
Absolutely. Kirby Puckett batting sixth. Your guy, Cal Ripken Jr. Only 34 at this point. Holy shit. I think he has a reverse picture of Dorian Gray in his closet or something. Like I don't. He just does not age well at all.
No, he picked up.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no, he just got older and older, and I've seen pictures of him today, and oof, the poor guy was like, he was like I'm the biggest Cal Ripken fan out there. He was the picture of physical fitness, and it's not quite there anymore. But I can't believe that this was like his 12th All-Star game at that point, and I have actually gone back and forth with his son Ryan Ripken on Twitter, who just retired from baseball, just hit 30, and is now trying to host his own podcast. And that was one of my big holy crap, I am old kind of moments, is when I'm talking to my favorite player's young son, who I remember from the world, from the record-breaking consecutive game streak, is like 3 years old. Now this guy's like 30. That's where all this gray hair is really starting to make a name for itself. So, but it was good to see Cal back out there again and playing. Really made me nostalgic, because 94 was my high school year. And
I was going to say this. I was going to say this for later, but I'll bring it up now. As I've been sort of like pouring through piles upon piles of advanced metrics, Cal Ripken. When I was a kid, I thought maybe he might be one of the more overrated players. I'm now thinking he might be one of the most underrated fielders of his day. Am I correct in that? Because I just sort of look back at all the advanced stuff. He probably was robbed of a lot of Gold Gloves, I think.
Yeah. He played in an era with like Alan Trammell, Tony Fernandez,
Later Vizquel.
Yeah, Omar Vizquel. And, obviously he was, I think, originally like a third baseman, but they moved him to short. And obviously he was a big guy, which was rare for back then. They were normally little, they were smaller and quicker.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't remember the stats. I remember him being very solid, but his thing was he wasn't great athletically, but he really like studied hitters. He was like, I think, like a film guy. So that's how he would like position himself and to be at the most advantageous spot when somebody would be up to bat. And it very rarely caused an error. It always completed those plays. And even when he switched to third base towards the end of his career, he still held it better than I would have thought at somebody at that age. I mean, heck, I would barely be able to get a bed at that age, let alone hold down third base.
Wait a minute, we're all.
Yeah, he kind of that in the pregame interviews, the pregame interview, where comparing himself to Ozzie. There's just no comparison to the athleticism, and he kept being a bigger guy. He had to work differently to apply his. So he knew.
Like he was basically saying, like Ozzie didn't matter where it was, Ozzie was going to get it, and we're going to see that later on. Whereas Cal sort of had to study a lot harder, and we saw that more, throughout his career. Like you said, he was a film guy. I mean, Tony Gwynn was the ultimate film guy. I mean, I remember a This Week in Baseball thing, watching that as a kid, where he's like popping in VHS tapes. Like he was way ahead of the curve, trying to study. Like he was studying his own at bats before a lot of people even thought of that. I mean, I can just imagine what he would do with today's technology, and if he just sort of like, and again, I'm a schmoo body wise, but if he just
every at bat, think about that.
Yeah. Batting eighth, Ivan Rodriguez, who would look a little different later.
A little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. And our pitcher, Jimmy Key. The National League, we're going to meet them, and receiving the biggest ovations of their lives are the Pirates trainers, featuring Kent Biggerstaff. If I had sort of a, incidentally, my middle name might be Vienna. Get it? Okay. Self-deprecating humor is my calling card. We have
Now I see why Glenn shakes. I'm glad to see Glenn doesn't just shake my head or shake his head at my jokes.
Oh God, that's all he does on this show.
Glenn's not just me.
Like all the time. We have some Philly staff who's there because they're the National League champions. The big name from that, though, and I forgot to mention because one of the big names for the Toronto staff that was there is Gene Tennis, three-time World Series champion with Oakland. He was a coach with the Jays at the time, and we have Johnny Padres, one hell of a pitcher in his day. Other coaches here, Coach Colorado Don Baylor, and Jim Leland, the Pittsburgh coach, who got a huge reaction. And I looked, I thought, man, well, this is pretty cool for this old guy. He was only 49.
Yeah, I mean, Jim Leland always looked old. Yeah. And not to pile on Cal Ripken, but just paging through the baseball cards. I mean, he just never really looked young. But yeah, Leland always looked like he was 100 years old.
Like I thought, because I wanted to check. Let's see if he's still alive. Not only is he still alive, I mean, he won. He won gold in managing the Team USA in the World Baseball Classic not that long ago. Like 49, and he would win a World Series later, another Manager of the Year in 2005, and take Detroit to 2 World Series appearances. He's Wilford Brimley because he was 49 in Cocoon. Like, holy shit! There's this.
See, guy, you don't look bad for being in your late 40s. You look better than Jim Leland.
Yeah. Oh my God. I guess there's at least one person that I can say, even if he is, probably in his 80s now, I could plant my flag and say I look better than Jim Leland in his late 40s.
That's sort of how I feel right now. And then I always usually point at him, and then George C. Scott was not even 40 when he did Patton. Like all these other people, and then my wife will bring up Paul Rudd.
The hell with Paul Rudd.
Somebody sold his soul.
I think so. Another coach, Dusty Baker. Holy crap. And he finally got his World Series just a couple years ago. Currently 8th all time in wins, and probably by the time this airs, he'll be 7th. All right, our reserves, Fred McGriff from Atlanta, New York's Randy Myers, from Cincinnati, although neither of them played, because both were injured, I believe, Barry Larkin and Jose Rijo. Colorado's Dante Bichette. Miami's Jeff Conine. Houston has Jeff Bagwell, who, again, looks a lot different from what he would look like a little bit later. Houston's Craig Biggio. So right there, I've got 2 people who have current Blue Jays as their kids.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Ken Caminiti. I wrote down he looks like Lou Ferrigno's Down syndrome brother.
Oh, we're not going to get canceled.
You can't say Down syndrome? I think you can. With a great reaction, Doug Drabeck. Pitcher, John Hudak. And I wrote, who dat? I don't remember this guy.
I had no recollection of him, but evidently this was his rookie year. I'm not sure if he ever got back to another All-Star game.
He did not.
I vaguely remember the name. I think he was a reliever, and obviously with Houston.
Yeah, he did not. He was the runner-up. He finished runner-up for the Rookie of the Year to Raul Mondesi, who's not here. I didn't remember Houston being this good at 94, but they were. They were 66 and 49 before the strike. Montreal, again, we might as well get into that. So we have 5 players here: Marquise Grissom, Will Cordero, Moises Alou, Darren Fletcher, Ken Hill. This isn't really the murderer's row when you talk about how Montreal was really loaded. But they were all sort of coming up. Larry Walker, I think, was still here. Was Andres Galarraga still here, or was he already with Colorado? I think he was with Colorado.
I think it was with Colorado at that point.
Yeah. Pedro Martinez. At the time of the stoppage, let's go into this now. They were the team with the best record. A lot of people have said that had the work stoppage not happened, Montreal could have won the World Series, possibly. They still have to get there. And it would have been projected, like, a lot of times when you read all this revisionist history, they think it would have been Montreal versus the Yankees. Okay.
Fair.
The issue though that I have when people say that, and have either of you been to Montreal or been to a state like
I-
Not been to Montreal. No, I haven't made it there.
okay. The Big O with Olympic Stadium was a piece of shit in 1994.
Well, on TV, it looked like a piece of shit.
Yeah, close it is. Inside it is. It's also not in a place around town where it's easy to necessarily get to. I don't know that even if Montreal wins the World Series, that what happened doesn't still happen. Because they're still not going to be able to afford to keep anybody.
Yeah,
This
I think just
accelerated it a year or two.
I think even if they had won, I still think fundamentally the business and just everything or all the supporting infrastructure just wasn't there to keep them in the city. Unfortunately, as much as I would have liked to have seen it, I always had a soft spot for the Expos. Yeah, I think they would have been done.
Yeah. So I just want to debunk that a little bit. The Mets have Brett Saberhagen, Philadelphia with 2 pitchers, Doug Jones, Danny Jackson. Pittsburgh with their lone representative, I don't remember this guy at all, Carlos Garcia.
The only thing I remember about him is I think he actually played for the Buffalo Bisons in the
You're
early
right.
90s.
Yeah.
I think he had I vaguely remember the name. I think I had his baseball card. I think he played for the local Buffalo Bisons.
Well, he got a great ovation, as he should. San Francisco's pitcher, Rod Beck. And he took off his hat. I wrote down that if somebody had a fetish for the biker from the Village People, cross-pollinated with Wilford Brimley, this would have been the guy.
The love child.
The love child of the fantasy love child of somebody who has daddy bear issues. I don't know. Despite the fact that I've got a little dog on my lap, I'm not that familiar with that aspect of the LGBT community.
He was definitely iconic with his look. I think even Doug Jones had some nice like mullet thing going on, if I remember correctly.
There were many a mullet. And they also introduced Lenny Dykstra of Philadelphia. He was voted in as a starter, but he cannot play. I wonder if Lenny remembers even being there. Probably not. Okay, manager Jim Fregosi, and we'll see with this lineup. It's got some good players, but it's not of the American League caliber. St. Louis first baseman Greg Jeffries, an interesting person to get voted in, I thought. Tony Gwynn, and bring out the booze. It's Barry Bonds from San Francisco. And the first thing
I found it humorous because Bonds, obviously we know how Bonds left, but I believe Doug Drabeck left as a free agent also, but he got cheered incredibly. So
right. But Bonds was an asshole. And
yes, you're right. Bonds was an asshole, but usually winning solves all of your asshole problems. But I guess when it came to Bonds, it didn't.
But they didn't win. There's quotes that he said, like, okay, I got you guys here. You got to get me to the World Series. Barry Bonds, as great a player as he was, you can play like MLB The Show on easy mode and still not do what he did in the last few years of his career. But Bonds always choked in the playoffs.
Yeah.
He hated the media hated him. And back then, you can't control your own narrative. There's no Twitter, there's no Instagram, there's none of these things. So I mean, it's like someone who's not here, Sammy Sosa, turned out to be a big giant asshole, but we didn't know that for years because he played the media. And until they started asking him PED questions, and then
you saw the side. Yeah.
Then you saw the other side. Then he couldn't learn. Then you get him in front of Congress and okay.
Yeah, I forgot how to speak English. Actually, a few of them
that was the best. Like that was just so awesome. Good on him for that. I don't know who gave him that advice. Sammy Sosa. I wouldn't have thought we'd ever see the day. But yeah, Bonds got a lot of booze, but the first thing I wrote down, I noticed is he's got a normal sized head.
I mean, looked like a streamlined athlete. Nothing to see here yet.
Right. And I think a lot of it, and I wonder what your take is on this. My best friend always said, like, okay, with Bonds, he was getting pissed off, like after everything, and then McGuire and Sosa are just hitting these crazy numbers, and he's thinking, like, shit, I'm a better player than these guys are. And arguably he was, well, he was, in his peak. I'm gonna do all this shit too. And I think the media turned on. I think that's when everything sort of turned in terms of the PEDs, because we all saw the bottle of Andro, what was it? I
think it was Andro. It was an Andro.
Something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. The fact that Glenn couldn't tell you that tells you that he is a clean clean intercontinental champion and triathlete.
Facts.
There you go. Absolutely.
Nope.
But we
no
all knew.
performance enhancements for my bottle returning. I'll take a test to this day.
Sadly, I need some enhancements now in my other sort of endeavors because I'm just old and I drink too much. But that's another thing here.
But not your viewpoint with Bonds is probably correct, because how many out there would say he was a surefire, maybe not first ballot Hall of Famer athlete without the drugs?
We all would.
But Bonds was gonna. I mean, his stats up until then were going to be good enough to get him in.
He was already 3 MVPs.
Yes.
So because he already won 3. Costas later in the broadcast mentioned how no one had ever won 4. So Bonds would win 4, 5, 6, 7. But I think a lot of the difference is now the media is going to turn on that because now you've got somebody doing all this who won't talk to us. I think being black also didn't help.
Sadly, that might be true.
Yeah. I'd like to think we're a lot better off now, but we're also talking the late 90s, early 2000s.
I mean, that's 30 years ago. You got to remember that.
Right. So, and again, he just didn't play ball, pardon the pun, with media. Like he didn't give them what they wanted. So there was no fluff pieces on Bonds, and Bonds didn't care. To his credit, though, he had somebody who like went to jail for him for like months and wouldn't give him up.
Yeah, the Balco guys.
Yeah,
I forgot about that.
That wouldn't.
Yeah, so to this day, Barry Bonds has never been credibly accused. Well, accused, but never been credibly accused of.
I mean, another thing that needs to be addressed is I don't believe there was a PED policy in Major League Baseball at that.
There wasn't, not until 2004. So that's always been my dividing line is, frankly, I can't give a shit that Bonds did all this stuff or Clemens did all this stuff because baseball allowed it.
Right.
So my opinion on Bonds for the Hall of Fame is completely different than Alex Rodriguez.
Right, because he did get caught during a period where there were regulations in place. Yeah,
I mean, like Ortiz is on the Mitchell report, but he wasn't that, which was supposed to say confidential. But okay, he can go down. But he, again, never caught. So if you weren't caught, you're not breaking a golden rule. I mean, or a fixed rule. I mean, like hell, we got Gaylord Perry, who just recently died, I think a year ago. He's in the Hall. We all know that his book autobiography was called Me and the Spitter.
Put everything on the ball.
Yeah, Garrett Cole's going to get in the Hall of Fame. We know what he's doing. It's a strange sport, and we have weird rules when we're going to crack down on something.
Yeah.
Again, I'm gotten on the soapbox in previous episodes, but you can thank George Bush, who needed distraction tactics and wasted taxpayer dollars for the congressional investigation of steroids in baseball. I mean, that didn't need to happen at the congressional level. That should have been a Major League Baseball issue. And
my dad used to say, every time we bring up my dad, love you. He used to say that every time Bill Clinton got a blowjob, somebody got blown up.
2 things exploded.
Oh man, just not a lot of blue dresses in Bosnia. But anyway, okay, moving on. Mike Piazza, the only person I think in history that had to do a press conference to say I'm not gay.
Oh my God, yes, I remember that.
I don't remember that. Holy cow!
I do remember that. It's disgraceful that had to happen.
Yeah, I don't even know why that even came up. So like, for whatever reason, there was all these gay rumors around Piazza, and then he actually, we was with the Mets then, and then he did an interview to say like, no, none of this is actually true. Like, I don't know why
Why even
that
had to
was
be?
even,
Yeah.
but it's so different. No, like if somebody in Major League Baseball were to come out now, you wouldn't even need a press conference. No one would give a shit. I don't care what name it is.
No, that's absolutely.
But back then, that was something he had to do, which is so crazy. Matt Williams, batting fifth. Yes, Winnie, that's Matt Williams. David Justice, playing at right field, a nice name from the past. An interesting voted starter, Mariano Duncan. Okay.
Right.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Ozzie Smith at short and Greg Maddux. Would you guys say that he's the best pitcher of this decade?
Ooh, off my gut, I gotta say, I mean, I don't have anything to defend it with, but my gut says I can't see many others better than him.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking the '90s. We're talking Gold Gloves, wins, all the numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Just looking the World Series that Atlanta team should have gotten with that staff. But individually, yeah, he's probably the greatest pitcher of that era.
Yeah, and I want to say he did it without like anything overpowering or being like extremely physically gifted.
He did the most with not necessarily the least, but you're right. I mean, pinpoint accuracy. He could put the ball wherever he wanted to, when he wanted to. And yeah, I mean, he's probably on that Mount Rushmore of pitchers in the '90s.
Yeah, and the one thing I think about David Justice, I remember not so much his career, is I believe he was married to Haley Berry for a while.
He was at this time. Yeah, at this very time. Yeah, he was married. He was currently married to Halle Berry. So at this time, he was doing tens. I might have been doing a couple ones at that point in time in my life. To be fair, after those women sort of were done with me, they said, I just did it with a one.
I was in high school, so I probably had a 0.5, even if somebody would look in my direction.
But I mean, all those ones added up to a 10.
Yeah. Maybe about 3,000 pounds too, but still, yes.
Send those letters to Kirk Buchner. Not in the Hall of Fame.
As we're recording this, right? So I'm going on Twitter. I just see Lizzo's trending. Usually I don't pay attention, and she's trending for apparently fat shaming her fat dancers. I'm not making that up. She's actually, some of them are now suing her.
Good for them.
There's something I didn't have in my bingo card, but holy, yeah. How dare you be fat? And even though I hired you to be fat and dance, only I can be fat and dance. Now send letters to me. Won't be the first time I've gotten hate messages. It'll be the last. Singing "Oh Canada," Margot Timmons, and they said of the popular group, Cowboy Junkies.
Full disclosure, the song I remember them doing is the cover, "Sweet Jane."
That was their only song that actually charted in the United States. I checked this out. Went 58 as a re-release in '94 when it was part of the Natural Born Killers.
Good song.
Yeah, great cover. Meatloaf. And I just wrote down to take a shot at both of you. Butcher's Your Anthem. BG, I don't know if Glenn told you I'm a Canuck.
Oh, I sort of picked up on that a little bit, but that confirms it.
I love working on that.
Well, I love our neighbors to the north. I have Canadian relatives, so I've heard bits and pieces. Plus, being from Buffalo, it's like a second language.
Sometimes when I look at Glenn's musical love, I think you're pretty much Canadian, dude.
We're a suburb of Southern Ontario.
I mean, you and I both grew up listening to The Edge, I'll bet.
102. Yeah.
Okay. After Meatloaf is doing Incidentally, I wrote here too that because he was big again because that song, I would do anything for love, but I won't do that. I sent out to see actually what exactly that was. All right, hold on. I'm gonna check this out here. I got this from the official thing here because they sent this to me, so I know it's official. All right. Apparently, what he won't do, well, this is what it was that he would not do, was threesomes with stinky Frenchmen. Who knew? He would do anything for love, but not threesomes with stinky Frenchmen. I'm part Quebecois. I can do that joke. Glenn, if you sort of say anything, that would be racist. I just want to point that out.
I'm not going to say anything.
But who knew? They're like, next time you hear that song, now you know what that's really about.
I'm never going to listen to it the same way again.
Yeah. Smelly Frenchman. NBC promotes another show that actually did do well. It's ER. There you go.
15 seasons, 331 episodes.
Holy research. Look at you.
I don't think I ever watched a single one. I was never an ER guy.
1994 to April 2009.
Damn.
Wow. I told you I dubbed into all the commercials.
I think the only thing that lasts longer than that is Sting.
Oof. What did I used to call it? Sting, Rod Stewart, Brian Adams, and Michael Bolton, the four horsemen of crap. Well, we're back.
Also a Gold commercial. Do you remember Coors Extra Gold?
No.
I don't either.
Yeah, no, that's a new one.
It's interesting seeing beer commercials where they're actually drinking beer, and by people you think will drink beer. All right, so back from break, and I'm so happy because it's Joe Morgan, and he's not my favorite, but Bob Uecker is. I love.
He's hysterical.
You can't. He's one of the best.
Still alive, still awesome. I won't retell the story because I can't possibly do it justice, but just YouTube Artie Lang talking about when him and Norm Macdonald were in the booth with Bob Uecker.
Oh goodness, this I got to check out.
Yeah, so it's just good. So like basically what Bob Uecker would do is so he would be doing the play-by-play, and then he would turn down the sound and then just say, "Look at the Hooters on that one," and then just like turn it back up, and it's just incredible. I love Bob Uecker, still do. I mean, Costas asks Joe Morgan what his favorite All-Star game was. He says 1977. Good thing production had something ready when they showed a clip of him having a home run, just in case, huh? That wasn't planned.
Coincidence.
There you go. Sorry about that. In the background, that's Jasper the Friendly Corgi, my other dog. You can follow him on Jasper_the Friendly Corgi on Instagram. I don't know if anyone ever has from his interruptions, but if you ever want to follow him, there you go. Costas asks you for the same thing. His favorite All-Star memory. He says when he worked the concession stands in 1966. For the record, Bob Uecker is in the Hall of Fame, the WWE Hall of Fame. Oh, he is.
I know.
Yeah. Also, Harry Doyle was a charter member of the fictitious Athlete Hall of Fame.
Is there a Hall of Fame we don't have?
That I don't have?
Yes.
Not yet. I'm sure there is. I'm sure there's. I've been kicking around a bunch of other dumb ideas in my head. I'm coming up. I want to do the Playoff Hall of Fame.
Okay.
Oh, that sounds intriguing.
Yeah. So basically, just where it's sort of like meant for people like Robert Horry or Claude Lemieux.
Bob.
Big shot, Bob.
Yeah. I mean, so just like what it only counting postseason, and then just sort of the same idea of what we're doing now. With the pro football thing where we're doing that revisited project.
Athletes that just turned on in the playoffs.
We're finally getting the game, and this is my fault because I just yammer and yammer. Roberto Alomar starts the game, his 5th of 12 straight All-Star games. Possibly one of the greatest second basemen ever, maybe or maybe not in the Mount Rushmore. But if you were to say who's in the Mount Rushmore of baseball players that have AIDS, he's definitely there.
I never knew he was diagnosed.
Wasn't, but allegedly. Does that save me from the lawsuit?
Well, the lawyers will let us know.
Okay. Well, that's been a rumor about him for many, many years. A former girlfriend of his did file a lawsuit saying that he had unprotected sex with her, knowing that he had it. His philandering was well known, even when he was a Blue Jay, even back then, and again, like no social media, no nothing. I mean, you'd hear stories just sort of like trickle hand, 10th hand of just like every woman that he would have. So I can just imagine. Look, I was joking before, not really joking, but how many people we think that are PED users and how many people were sexual abusers? Well, for the sexual abuser count, we've got one because he's officially banned from baseball or participation from it because of what happened a couple years ago with someone. Was it the Baseball Hall of Fame, or I think, or was it MLB? So
I don't.
yeah. So having said that, one hell of a player. What one of maybe the 20 people I've seen live, he's up, or not 20. He's up in the top 20 of people I've seen live play. 2,724 hits, 300 batting average. Man, just so good. He grounds out. Wade Boggs is up next. He's also a 12-time. He will also have 12 straight All-Stars. This was number 10. Batted 300 every year from 82 and 96. Over 3,000 hits, lifetime average of 338. And I still can't believe he signed a deal where he said, okay, I'm going to go in the Hall of Fame as a Tampa Bay Devil Ray.
I think there was something going on there, and I can't remember what he got for that.
Well, then baseball said, like, no, you can't do that. Or, actually, I don't know. Did baseball say you can't do that to the Hall of Fame? Because they're separate. I mean, that, you don't think that they're separate, but they are.
Right.
So it might have been the Hall that sort of like stopped and like intervened. Just like, we're not going to be doing that. Well, Boggs gets a base hit, typical Boggs fashion, single up the middle. Ken Griffey's up, and he's on year 5 already. So he's already been a 5-time. This is already his 5th All-Star. I wrote down too that in that Simpsons episode, Ken Griffey's junior head from that's actually what Barry Bonds said. That's what I want to look like.
The nerve tonic. The nerve
Yes.
tonic.
Actually, how many of those players are on this game here? We got Griffey. Actually, not a whole lot. Griffey, Ozzie Smith. That's, I think, it.
Yeah, I think it's, trying to think off the top of my head. Yeah, I don't think anybody else.
Yeah, who's it? Because Boggs. Was Boggs on this or no? Who's their third baseman?
Oh.
Well, let's see. What do we got here?
The outfielder was Canseco and Strawberry. Roger Clemens was the pitcher. Mike Scioscia was the catcher. Steve Sachs at second.
Well, here we go. Boggs, Canseco, Clemens, Griffey, Mattingly, Sachs, Scioscia, Smith, and Strawberry.
Okay. Well, Griffey would be the runner-up for the MVP this year. Frank Thomas won it, and but he would win the MVP in '97. Won his first of 4 home run titles, 630 total. I wrote down, I think a lot of us feel this way. He didn't juice because his numbers in Cincinnati just showed that of a former power player who just didn't have it anymore.
Mm-hmm. Injuries too.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, he was abandoned in the outfield. And yeah, I mean, he was a skinny, athletic kid for most of his career.
Yeah, until he turned into a skinny, athletic, middle-aged guy who was hurt. You know, I don't think he ever cheated Ken Griffey Jr. Like, just one of those all-around great guys. I think, like, if your kid looks up to him, I think you're feeling pretty good.
Absolutely.
Yeah, great role model. Great role model. Great attitude.
Yeah, so got into the Hall of Fame in 2016, and 3 people decided, you know what, I haven't seen enough. Well, he belts a double into the gap. Boggs goes to third. Frank Thomas is next. And he did win the MVP. Second straight. His end-of-year slash line, holy shit. And I was reading an interview where he said, like, pretty much, yeah, I won this MVP, but it still doesn't feel whole. But it is 353, 497, 739, OPS 1227. Somebody who is just naturally like, and he's he probably came out of the womb at 200 pounds.
I mean, he's just
He's
like
not
a
a big Kirk for nothing.
yeah. And he was, I think, an Auburn product as well, like with Bo Jackson.
That's what they
Yeah.
said. That he played football with Bo Jackson. That Thomas was a tight end.
Yeah, the only other random thing I know about him is I think he was in the movie Mr. Baseball with Tom Selleck. I think he was the guy that caused Tom Selleck to have to sign with
That's
a
right.
Japanese baseball team.
Yeah. Did you ever see where Tom Selleck actually took a legit batting practice? Or not batting practice. Was it participated in an exhibition game?
I've heard about that with Detroit, I believe,
Yeah.
or something like that. Yeah.
So he was researching for that film, and they said, "Okay, go on up," and he did. Struck out, but he actually fouled one off. I think it was against Rob Dibble.
Oh, wow.
That's nasty.
Yeah, so I mean that's up there. He probably didn't have any time. The way he explained it, because I saw him do this interview. I think it was Rich Eisen or something like that, where he just talked about that, and then found like you can find his at bat online.
Okay, I know what I'm doing after this show.
Yeah. Also, then you can check out Billy Crystal's at bat at over 50.
Ooh, that's probably less pretty.
Yeah, it was, but he still fouled one off. But it was kind of cool because Robin Williams was there in the audience, just so happy for his friend. And Billy Crystal just loves baseball so much. I think like when Glenn and I were looking at one of our shows, because we sometimes veer off actual sports. We did one episode of Battle of the Network Stars. And there was one episode. Well, we didn't do this one. Actually, that's what we should do. Just only Battle of the Network Stars.
So that'll be a whole subset of the Classic Sports Review Battle of the Network Stars.
Or how did Debbie Allen walk the next day? For Glenn and I, that's funny to just us.
If you go back and watch the Classic Sports Review of the Network Stars, you'll get it. And who's our co-host for that one? That was
that was Chris Huffins. That was the bronze medalist.
He added to that.
But yeah, Billy Crystal was actually a pretty decent athlete. You would never know it looking at him. But
short Jewish.
Yeah, doesn't look imposing at all. Basically, he was a shorter Adam Sandler. Like, this guy can play.
Yeah.
So no, but that's actually something. Billy Crystal did not embarrass himself, and I think if you're a pitcher there, like you don't want to be the guy who sort of like let an actor get a hit off you. So you're not taking it easy.
No, absolutely not.
Anyways, Frank Thomas, he belts one in the center. Wynn rushes in, but he doesn't get it. The commentators are mentioning that it's not his natural position. He's playing center. It's legitimate. It's ruled a hit, and it should be. Just Wynn that's not his position. Wasn't what he was meant to do. So Boggs scores. We have a lead. American League 1-0. Joe Carter's up, World Series hero, but Toronto stunk this year. It's absolutely stunk. I checked his overall B WAR, under 20. Only 19.5.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So that sort of struck me too. And then I thought about it. Like, I don't ever remember Joe Carter being all that good in outfield. It's funny. Like, I think as we get older, damn, our parents were right. Defense wins titles.
Yeah, it can kill you.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. He was on an all-star streak. Also, this was number 4. He lined a ball right over Maddox's head, but not over his glove. Maddox doubles back Thomas for the double play, end of inning, and we got a taste of why Greg Maddux was considered the best fielding pitcher ever.
18-time Gold Glove winner.
Yeah. And it's really good.
He was just
You combine his pitching. I mean, put the ball wherever he wants, change his speeds, but then to consciously be able to put yourself in a position to defend your position is just incredible.
And he didn't get rattled.
No.
Yeah, I mean, at any given moment, a pitcher could have a ball coming at them like 100 miles an hour off a bat, and to be able to have that kind of poise and win that many defensive awards, I mean, that just speaks volumes.
And then later on to star in one of the great baseball commercials, Chicks Dig the Long Ball.
Oh, forgot about that.
Oh man, that's what I'm doing after this.
To the batting cages.
Mm-hmm. All right, the National League bats. Jeffries is up first, and I don't remember a whole lot of this guy. Second of 2 All-Stars, batted .325 this year. Overall, 1,593 hits. That's not bad. I'm thinking, like, how do I not really remember much of him? I guess because living in an American city, right?
Remember about Greg Jeffries. He came up with the Mets with a lot of fanfare.
Mm-hmm.
And his honorous rookie baseball card was worth like $20 when it first came up. So all of us guys are spending like whatever it costs to get boxes of Donruss baseball cards in the hopes that we would get a Greg Jeffries rookie card. And then you get a few of them, and stupid as we were, we never sold them right away because now I think a Greg Jeffries rookie card probably isn't worth $1. That's my memory of Greg Jeffries.
Sometimes you just never know. What do we got next? Anyways, Jeffries gets a leadoff double against Johnny Key. So got a first hit already from the NL. Wins up next batting. 383. Oh, sorry, it's 383. I thought it was 386, like I said before, but 8 batting titles, 3,141 hits, grounds out to first, but gets Jeffries over to third. Barry Bonds at the plate, and man, the fans are giving it to him. All-Star number 4 of 14. We know what he did: 762 home runs lifetime, 73 in a single season. Takes the first pitch out to the warning track, but caught, and that gets us National League fans a little bit. They're a little confused. Okay, we got to run, but we hate this guy. But it's a sacrifice fly, so that got them in. Piazza batting, Hall of Famer 2016, All-Star 2 of what was going to be 12, 427 home runs, 2,127 hits. Line to Frank Thomas ends the inning, end of the first of 1-1. All right, Maddox is still pitching, and here's something already different. Now pretty much nobody pitches 3 innings. We're going to see some people who played the full game. I didn't check this, Glenn, maybe you did, because your research apparently is on point. How many more people are they allowing into the All-Star game from years before? It seems like a lot more.
Yeah, I mean, I did not look into that, but you're pretty much on point with that.
Okay, well, so who we got? Puckett, Kirby Puckett. All right, so wait a minute. So we have Bonds juicing. Piazza may have juiced. Now we're going to go with the other side here. Kirby Puckett, 9 All-Star game out of 10. Had to retire after 95 because he lost the vision in one eye. Oh, Kirby. If you were to tell me back, if I was watching this game, and you were to say, you know what, one of these people in this game is going to be arrested later or indicted for forceful kidnapping, 5th-degree sexual misconduct in a bathroom, Kirby Puckett would not have been the person I would have picked. He would have been near the bottom of that between him, Ripken, and Gwynn. I would not have seen any like him doing
what? Halbar, Justice, Rodriguez.
Well, Ivan Rodriguez? I didn't know much about Ivan doing anything bad, did he?
He just looks like someone that would.
Send your letters. Having said that, on our last show, I said someone looks like. I'm not saying that this woman has a lot of body hair, but I'm not saying she doesn't. So,
love you, Ivan.
But
anyway,
yeah, Kirby. I just had all sorts of good memories, and then when that happened, I just said, reality's hitting. I'm part of the real world now.
Well, yeah, the last few years of Puckett's life was not good. He would other things that happened to him. His wife was hit with a restraining order because I guess she was harassing a woman that Kirby had an affair with. They would eventually divorce a year later. Sports Illustrated, back when they actually covered sports, broke a story about how he had multiple affairs. The twins apparently paid hush money to somebody he apparently sexually harassed. his ex-wife's once called the police to say that Kirby said he was going to kill her. We didn't know any of that in 1994. All of us, even if we weren't Twins fans, we all love Kirby Puckett.
No, and it's funny. I mean, earlier we were talking about social media and trying to steer the narrative. You wonder what our opinions of these players would have been if they were immersed in the social media era,
Well, a
and
lot of
how
them just
they
canceled,
would have been able.
really.
Yeah.
You know, like, well, I mean, it depends. I mean, like, depends what you're bringing into it and what you are.
Right.
Puckett in '94, if one of this came out, okay, well, it's Kirby. I mean, hell, I mean, like, we're going to be talking about OJ because some of this shit was around the same time. I still remember when OJ, they said it was OJ. A lot of us were thinking, come on, OJ's such a nice guy. Yeah, this couldn't be true. DNA, what's that?
Yeah. I mean,
and then you see the documentaries, and OJ really wasn't all he was, and they were portrayed on the Hertz commercials or the Naked Gun films.
Arnold Palmer always had a sneaking suspicion, but he was in the Hertz commercial. Okay, they're not all gems.
No, they're not.
Well, Kirby grounded out to third, one out. Ripken's batting. All-Star 12 of 19, already a two-time MVP, 3,184 hits. Inducted in 2007, and then I wrote down too also. This is for you, Bottle Guy. 8 people thought, nah, you know what? We didn't see enough. No, he's not a Hall of Famer. Nah.
yeah, there was always that nobody can be a Garrett first, a unanimous Hall of Famer. I think people were trying to, be cool. And I know, like, I think after some of the newer shortstops started coming in, they're like, this guy really isn't all that special. But long story short, he did end up getting in. So I was happy with that. Let the naysayers have their say.
Nothing against Mariano Rivera. I think he definitely should be a first ballot Hall of Famer. I think he should be unanimous. But the fact that he's the first unanimous Hall of Famer says everything about the people voting.
Yeah, I'll give you that. And this is coming from a Yankee fan where I not that, I mean, yeah, a little bit of a raised eyebrow that he was the first to do it, particularly being a reliever, because we all know how hard it is for relievers to get into the Hall of Fame. And I get it. He may be the greatest reliever of all time.
Definitely.
But that's what the game was at that time. I don't know if we're ever going to see relieving go the way it had been in the past.
No, because I mean, a lot of times if you're a reliever, something is usually wrong with your game overall in some ways. Like they don't trust you enough. I don't say it like that, but your best pitcher generally isn't a reliever, unless it's something very special like Mariano or some other people that we can mention, Trevor Hoffman.
Right.
Back in the day, I thought Dan Quisenberry should be a Hall of Famer personally, but that's neither here nor there. The thing that blows me away most about Rivera is, as great as his numbers were, and you put his playoff numbers against it, and it's even better.
I think there was a stat I heard years ago that more men have landed on the moon than runs Mariano Rivera gave up in the playoffs.
What do you think is more, though? Women that Derek Jeter slept with, or hits that Derek Jeter had?
Now, see, that's the thing about Derek Jeter. I mean, even in the social media era, we really don't know all of his stats.
But you know what? But that was the thing. Derek Jeter, I'm single. I'm not going to talk about it, but I'm single. Tiger Woods, I'm going to sleep with as many people too, but you portrayed yourself as a family man. Charles Barkley got what happened once? I might have got this wrong, but he was arrested for DUI. It's like, just go to see a hooker. I don't think that's what he said. I might be off. I'm probably off. I don't think Barkley.
Charles, we love you.
I love absolutely. I don't know. I probably have that wrong, but
again, he claimed he wasn't a role model.
That's right.
I mean, he owned it,
and that's why all that stuff worked for him. What we hate most in life are hypocrites.
Yeah.
Anyway, Ripken, so they flash a graphic here, guys. Dogs. You're not helping. They don't care. Why can't they be like your cat there, bottle guy?
Just passed out. Yep, he's happy as could be.
Absolutely.
But he's also 15 years old, so he just sleeps all day.
You know, the other dog's 10 right now. Jasper, you okay, buddy? I think he's had enough. He's had enough of you, Winnie. They flash a graphic here. Ripken was already at 1,983 games. I couldn't remember. I guess he broke it in the next year. So you know, they really put a lot of this in perspective because I never really thought about it as much. And you probably did, BJ, thinking about this more than I would. Just how amazing it is for him to be able to do that and just not get hurt even for any kind of ailment whatsoever. At short.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly, as I get older, you know, I get out of bed or I sit down wrong and I'm pulling my back out. I mean, I'm sure he had a lot of preparation, but there's a lot of luck. And I do remember one story I read about, maybe in a book or biography, that he had played a game and he had done something to his knee and he couldn't walk. And it was, you know, they're like, well, is that going to be the end of the street? Because they had a day game the next day, and somehow it miraculously just got better and he was able to go out there. But there were a couple close calls. But you know, I think they heard after he finished his streak, I think the next closest that anybody ever got was like maybe 400 something games, and that was years ago.
Correct me if I'm wrong too. He didn't DH much either.
No, I don't think he ever DH'd. I'm trying to remember. I mean, granted, I haven't looked at his whole stats, but I think he always started either like, you know, shortstop or third base. I can't remember any time that he actually DH'd. That is a good question. I'd have to look that up.
One sec here. Sorry, everyone. If this doesn't seem seamless, it's because my little Winnie, well, Winnie decided to have a little accident. So we had to take care of that.
You know, as long as she's not in her accidents, we're thrilled.
Yes. Actually, she did an accident on the last show that we did, didn't we, Glenn?
Yes, she did.
She just give it her take on Cal Ripken, I believe.
Or just Baltimore right now, because I'm really, God, I don't know. I like you guys right now. I love your team.
Yeah, and I still say the best is yet to come. We have some younger guys coming up. Fingers crossed.
Well, Ripken grounds out 2 away. Ivan Rodriguez is batting. Hall of Famer 2017, 2,844 hits. They made him wait, and I think we know why. Now he was, and I believe it, when Jose Canseco said this. Canseco said that he personally injected Irod. I believe Canseco because Jose Canseco, just as much as we can goof on the guy, Jose is an open book.
And his book was very entertaining, if you haven't read it.
Oh.
Yeah. I also encourage you to sort of like watch an interview with him on DJ Vlad.
Okay.
On YouTube. Canseco, and this is sort of why I believe him. Here's Canseco, who pretty much had everything. We'll tell you he had everything. I mean, he's still like in his early 50s. He's still built like a tank, still very, very good looking. Like he still pretty much has it all, but he would say like a year after he couldn't get a job in baseball, he was living in his friend's garage. He doesn't have to admit that. But he does. He's telling you that pretty much he's blunt about everything, laughs about the baseball that bounced off his head. It's really a riveting interview, like I found. So like what reason is he going to lie about for here? I just don't see it. They were teammates in Texas. So I think at this point too, I'm not sure.
Might have been like, because I remember because A-Rod was my age, and I remember thinking, oh, how cool is it going to be to have somebody my age in Major League Baseball? So I think A-Rod was drafted 94. So actually, yeah, it might be close.
A-Rod or I-Rod? We're talking about Ivan.
Oh, I'm thinking A-Rod, not I-Rod. But wouldn't surprise me.
Because I remember something. It's funny what you remember and what you don't. I remember a sportscaster saying, because Canseco was traded for Ruben Sierra, who we're going to see later. And they said, well, I wonder if this is the first time that a Hall of Famer was traded for a Hall of Famer, which clearly didn't happen. But
Canseco was in Texas in 1992.
okay, so they were teammates because Rodriguez here, he's on All-Star number 3. So whether that happened or didn't, it doesn't matter. But I do believe that's why they made him wait, because he was not first ballot.
Yeah, that's reasonable.
Yeah, I could certainly see that.
He wasn't.
Yeah,
I mean, there was question.
Same with Piazza too, who should have been first ballot, because there was possibilities, and Bagwell. So we got 3 people in this game who were suspected, never proven, and all 3 should have been first or at least second, and none of them were. I think Piazza third ballot. Piazza waited a lot longer than he should have.
I think he was third ballot, if memory serves.
Anyway, while you're looking that up, so it's anyway, Pudge he strikes out, ends the inning. One of the commercials here. Here's another thing that you forget. You're stuck in a time warp. It's Michael Jordan shilling Gatorade as a baseball player.
Right. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Whoa! What? If Michael Jordan just did baseball, what do you guys think?
I remember a GM saying that if like he was just coming out of high school or college, he would have been a first round pick back then. Mm-hmm. And I would be given he was such a good athlete, I would have given him a shot. Hall of Fame baseball player. I guess we'll never know, but I mean, for what little he did in AA, for somebody who was like, I don't know, maybe his late or early 30s at the time, I guess you could say he held his own as best he could.
As best he could,
yeah. Everything I've read about that, scouts and GMs, he could have been an adequate baseball player.
Yeah, it's so 1994, and we'll see some more very 1994 things, especially.
And Piazza got in on the 4th ballot.
4th ballot, okay. We have Matt Williams batting against Jimmy Key. He goes down in 3 pitches. David Justice batting, and I wrote down actually what you sort of said, Bottle Guy. I had written down that he was married to Halle Berry, and I was doing ones. So there we go. I planned my shtick. He flies out. Mariano Duncan bats, and Costas is saying it's a pretty weird all-star, and in retrospect, it really was. They say he was the first one in the National League, not Ryan, because Ryan Sandberg went to like 10 in a row or something like that at second base. Duncan had only a career B-WAR of 5.8, so like not great, but
was that the year Sandberg retired?
Yeah, he retired the year after, because I think he retired in 93. And okay. So Duncan was voted in. Right. So
he was a Philly?
What's that?
He was a Philly?
Yeah, he was a Philly. So I mean, I think it's
they might have been running the wave of the previous year's run to the World Series, getting those votes.
Right, but I mean, like the other second baseman from the National League who is here, so you voted him over Craig Biggio? Like, man, you Americans don't know how to vote.
I was going to say that's the problem with democracy. People get the votes.
Of course, look who we voted in 3 times. Anyway, no one wants to hear me shit on Justin Trudeau again.
We'll trade you Trump for Trudeau. Straight up.
Deal.
Yeah, I'd support that deal.
Wait a minute, hold on. Let me think about this. If we do that trade straight up, does that mean Trump takes over as prime minister? Or can I just sort of like have him sort of like try to win an election here?
You want the entertainment value of him trying to win an election?
No, I don't, because I remember saying to my dad again, man, wouldn't it be fun to I can't wait to see this whole Hillary Trump thing. It's going to be so much fun. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. I'll leave it at that. Anyway, Duncan grounds out to end the inning. It was a great throw by Boggs, and I remarked, holy shit, Frank Thomas is super flexible getting this. He didn't necessarily need to do the splits to get to extend, but the fact that he could,
Yeah.
I didn't remember him as this great defensive player, and I guess he wasn't, but he was there.
Yeah, I think he could turn it on when he needed to.
Yeah. Uh, End of the second, it's 1-1. Maddox remains, and again, we're not going to see that now. Third is for 3 innings. Paul Molitor gets his only at bat because he's batting for the pitcher. Grounds out right away, and that's it. Paul Molitor would be a first ballot Hall of Famer 2004. The amazing thing with Molitor, I remember when we got him in Toronto. It's like, I'm so happy when we got him because I really liked him because he sort of like fits that mold of hitters that I liked. And he was still fantastic in Toronto. And then when he left for Minnesota, it's like, he's near 40. How much could he possibly have left? A lot. Molitor was amazing. 3,319 hits. So I think out of all the people here that we're looking at, he has the most hits. I'm pretty sure that's the case.
Wow. Yeah, I'm forgetting how good he was as you throw out those kind of numbers. I remember seeing him play and, just sort of lose track and time. And like,
here's an interesting thing too. So for a guy who pretty much became a DH early in his career, he left the game with 504 stolen bases. So when you think of the DH, you think of this immobile former 5-tool player. Molitor just was, for whatever reason, he just wasn't a great fielder, but
yeah, Molitor's top 10 in hits.
Yeah. Well, we get is Hannah Storm still employed by somebody?
ESPN, I believe.
Oh, okay, because ESPN still has people who work there.
Believe it or not, when they're not laying off people and firing people, they do put actual means on their telecasts.
You should open up that email I got from them saying, "Do you want to be an analyst here? We'll pay you in stock." I think at this point I might be able to get a job. Well, no. If they look at any of my shows, they're not going to hire me.
You never know. Stranger things have happened. They've hired stranger people than you, Kirk.
All right, now I'm got to segue. Who the hell would that be? Who is stranger at ESPN that's hired than me? Damn it! The fact that I have nobody, I think, is a shot at me. All right. Anyway, Hannah Storm is interviewing Jimmy Key. Jimmy Key, I wrote down, has the personality of a filing cabinet. This sucks.
and one of those 2-drawer ones, not a 3-drawer one.
Well done. Alomar's batting. He gets a second at bat. He grounds out to Duncan, who Duncan had a great fielding play here, kept it and to get the out. Boggs is up next, and Maddox gets him on a rare called strike 3. Just watching Maddox versus Boggs, and love that. Middle of the third, 1-1. Oh, one of the commercials. We got a beer commercial that I referenced. It's Budweiser promoting the Rolling Stones Voodoo Lounge Tour.
Was that their last tour?
To be fair, they never said that. I remember jokes back then. I think the tour before that was the Steel Wheels tour, and people said it was the Steel Wheelchair tour.
Yep.
I remember. Yep, I remember that.
And holy shit, I guess they're. Well, would they be older than us now? Well, okay, no. Well, they first hit it in 63, 64, so they'd only be marginally older than we are now. I remember. Yeah. So if you were to go back and say, okay, in 1994, let's say we're all watching this in a bar. Hey, man, Keith Richards, he's still going to be alive in 2023. None of us would have took that bet.
You look like the Walking Dead then.
He's the reason why I keep drinking, because I figured, well, fuck. Look at this guy. What's the point? I mean, athletes sort of like just keep falling over right now. And Keith Richards is, there was a line I saw in a sitcom, and this was like in the late 80s. God, I think it was Blossom. I can't believe I'm quoting Blossom. And the guy said, they say in the event of a nuclear holocaust that only the cockroaches would survive. But I think we're underestimating Keith Richards. And there he is. Another thing for a Nicolas Cage movie called It Could Happen to You. And then I had memories of 1992 Rosie Perez from White Men Can't Jump.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. Good times. Good
Oh, yeah.
times.
She's still not that bad.
Oh, she's fantastic.
Mhm.
Yes. And then we get a commercial with Mike Ditka,
The Bears.
who's going to be joining the NBC NFL show. Glenn, where am I going with this?
I don't know, Kirk. Where are you going with this?
Really? Okay. You're going to make me do this. Okay. Yes. This year, he joined the NFL show. 5 years later, he would trade his entire draft class to Washington to move up a few spots for Ricky Williams. Fuck you, Ditka.
Footnote: Kirk's a big New Orleans Saints fan.
Yes.
That makes sense now.
Yeah, I'm a big Saints fan, and I am not obviously a Ditka fan. I like Ricky Williams. It's just a dumb thing to. Anyway, I'm still bitter. All this time, I'm still bitter.
I remember Ditka with a picture of Ditka and Ricky Williams, where Ditka's wearing the braids.
Well, the wedding dress and the cover of Sports Illustrated.
Oh, that was it.
Yeah, I was reading something too because I was looking back at this trade actually in preparation, and so they talked about this whole thing with that, and Ditka said, "Yeah, I'll do it, but I'm not going to be the one wearing the dress." Ricky, what were you thinking? Oh my God, damn it! Why would you do that?
Ricky.
David Cohen's come on to pitch. It's his third All-Star game, and he would win the Cy Young this year. 194 wins, 2,600 Ks. Pretty good career. Not a Hall of Famer, but pretty damn good.
No, solid.
Yeah.
Probably going to be remembered for the perfect game.
Yeah. Ozzie Smith is batting. It's his 13th All-Star, and they kind of thought it was going to be his last one. It wouldn't be. He'd actually go to 2 more. But we know that this guy's nearing the end. He would be a first ballot Hall of Famer in 2002. 13 Gold Gloves. The Gold Glove is one of those awards that I rip on a lot because there's been a lot of, if you look historically, a lot of shitty winners. Rafael Palmeiro being the worst one, winning a Gold Glove at first base when he didn't play first base. Actually, wasn't that with your team, Baltimore?
I think it was. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, he is all-time the worst Gold Glove recipient ever. Oh, Rafi. Mark my words, I did not take steroids. I believed you because of that damn finger, you dipshit. But anyway, he must be. Well, okay, let's go with Palmeiro here. Conspiracy theory. So he got that 3,000 hit. He was back in Baltimore, and then 2 weeks later they sort of announced that. There was something I read where they said, well, okay, they knew this was coming. They just wanted to wait till he got that 3,000 hit. Did you ever hear anything about that, or?
I don't remember hearing anything about it, but it wouldn't surprise me. I think a lot of those teams back then just wanted to get maybe somebody through a milestone and then just quietly just, shuffle them out the door. They don't want to be distracted.
Was he ever a popular player there? I mean, he never struck me as popular anywhere he went, even though he's with Baltimore and Texas, only 2 teams. But
I remember. I think I actually did get to see him play, and I think there were, like, obviously with Cal there were a lot of other players that people gravitated towards. I mean, actually one of them was Mickey Tettleton, who was with the Orioles like around the late 80s, and he had the whole Fruit Loops like thing. Is he was hitting home runs, was having great years with Baltimore, and they attributed it to him eating Fruit Loops. So it's that kind of stuff that endears yourself to Baltimore. And Palmeiro signed as a free agent, but I don't think anybody will ever mention him as a beloved player.
It always struck me as a bit of a tryhard. There was another All-Star game, and I've been trying to find this clip forever, and I can't find it. It was another All-Star game. It was like right before that, and they're interviewing McGuire and Bonds, and because they were both like in the 500 home run club, and then right behind them creeps up Palmeiro. Don't forget me, guys. like not quite like that. That's how I remember it in my head, and I can't find it to actually see how it really went. But Palmeiro just sort of struck me as a doofus. I don't know why. Again, because I'm so cool. Ozzy's batting, but he flies out to center, 1 out. Jeff Bagwell's here to bat for Maddox. For all the talk that they talked about these other NL players, it was Bagwell who was going to win the MVP this year. So Bagwell, like a very fascinating guy to me, phenomenal player, everything with Houston. Okay, 6th ballot it took him to get in. So we know that he was forced to wait, at least I think. Gets a single here. Jeffries gets a second at bat, pops up. Pudge misjudged it from where he thought the trajectory was going to go. So he probably could have caught it, but whatever. Cone pitches on the inside. This nicks Jeffries. He gets a free pass. So the National League's got runners on first and second with 1 out. My guy, Tony Gwynn's up. And on a 2-0 count, just as Casas says, this is when he's the most dangerous. There you go. That's why Casas is the man. Pulls it to the right for an extra base hit. Bagwell scores. Jeffrey scores, beating the tag through very excellent base running. Like, it was very impressive. National League 3, American League 1. Gwynn's on second, 1 out. Bonds comes up with the second at bat. And the hometown, they're just all on him, and they love it, the fact that he struck out as his bat's flying in the dugout. That made them so happy. I was writing down too, the Pittsburgh fans have been they're just great fans. Pittsburgh, you probably know Pittsburgh better than I do, both of you. Pittsburgh strikes me sort of as a lot like Buffalo, blue collar town, love their sports, and they get their sports. Fair?
Yeah, small market team.
Yep. I've had the honor of attending a few sporting events in Pittsburgh. Class act fans. You could wear an opposing jersey or hat, and they'll rib on you friendly, but
not like Buffalo.
Buffalo's harmless, just minus Glenn. He'll go after you. But
I've seen someone beaten up for wearing a Merino jersey. I've been to a few Bills games in my day.
No, I've never heard. I've never heard that. It's not like the old. Yeah, well, it's not like the Eagles booing Santa Claus. I mean, that is still my favorite fan interaction moment of all time.
I like the Sixers booing Destiny's Child, but they kind of deserved it. Why would you sort of like do that in Philadelphia and have one of you sort of like wear the Sixers thing?
I didn't know that happened. Now I have another clip I've got to look up.
Yeah, so it was Sixers Lakers, and Destiny's Child is playing the halftime thing. So they've got Kelly Rowland, she's all in Sixers. Beyonce's got the half and half, and then you got I don't even remember the name of the other one. She's just the other one. So the other one sort of stuck there with wearing a Lakers thing, getting booed. And I think it was back in the old Sports Illustrated days. There's a picture of just her just like looking there like a mope while she's getting booed while she's trying to strut her stuff. Philadelphia, never change, please. Anywho, where did I leave off here? Piazza's at bat with 2 outs and went on second. He gets an RBI single, 4-1. Matt Williams comes up next, but he strikes out. It's not a good day for Matt Williams. But end of the third, 4-1. Okay, they're really pushing this Martin Short show. And they Martin Short sort of his persona is Jackie Rogers Jr. I wrote down he's a better hitter than Jackie Bradley Jr.
Who isn't? I could hit better than him.
Is he still? I know he had a brief thing with Kansas City this year, but is he done?
Gosh, he very well could be. I wouldn't doubt it.
Well, while Glenn's looking that up, we got Ken Hill from Montreal in the pitch. This was the best year of his career. Only All-Star season. but he would lead the National League in wins with 16 against 4 losses. He did have 16 wins in 92. Bit of a journeyman pitcher, but he was Montreal's ace at this point. 117 wins against 109 losses over his career. Pretty good. Bagwell defensively will stay in the game at first, and Carlos Garcia is in play at second. Ken Griffey grounds out. Thomas is up, and Johnny Bench is interviewing Greg Maddux. I wrote down, if Jimmy Key's a filing cabinet, then Maddux is a coffee table.
Now, he did Duke Schick's dig the long ball.
Right here, he's a coffee table.
Great pitcher, not so great personality, but he gets a pass because he's that good.
I thought I was watching hockey. Yeah, there's no I in team, eh? Like every time you just got to keep your stick on the ice there, and like then you just keep every shot that you take, like if you don't like take a shot at the net there, eh? Then then you can't get the third goal. Do I sound Canadian now?
I can definitely tell you're Canadian right there.
Thank you.
I'm waiting for this to turn into Strange Brew.
I do a fantastic impression of Max von Sydow from that film.
Oh, great actor.
All right, Woody's going to help with that. I can crush your head like a peanut, but I won't because I need you.
I did not know you were that talented.
Okay,
stop. Anyway, for those that were waiting, Jackie Bradley Jr. is still in the league. He's with the Kansas City Royals.
He's with the Royals again. He's actually playing. There you go. Thomas walks on 4 pitches. Joe Carter hits the first pitch right to Justice. We got 2 out. Pockets up, but he grounds out to Bagwell in the inning. 4-1, middle of the 4th. Cohen is pitching against Justice. He grounds out. Carlos Garcia gets his only at bat, the only Pirate. This was his only All-Star. Not a very long career. 610 games. His B WAR is 1. So, gotta hand it to the Pirates. I mean, you go from who did they have a couple years before? You have Drabek, Bonds, Bonilla, Van Slyke, and now your All-Star is Carlos Garcia.
Oh, the mighty had fallen.
Well, again, a small market team that couldn't keep their players.
Well, as I'm thinking this, Costas is saying what everyone else is thinking. Every team gets a representative, and realistically, he doesn't belong here. He doesn't have the numbers. And he's saying this as he grounded out in the first pitch, and they might as well have been sort of like playing like the end theme from Incredible Hulk TV show. Because Costas was saying that they just pin in on Garcia.
The long
like, Bob, why didn't you just piss in his mouth while you're doing this? Like, holy shit.
Because Bob only charges extra for that.
Bob doesn't have to charge anything for that. People pay
Bob. Piss in his mouth for free.
People pay Bob for him to piss in their mouth, I'll have you know. The only pervert announcer is Marv Albert. We know this.
Marv.
Speaking of perverts, I know that Pee Wee Herman just died. I don't know when this is going to go on the site, but it's amazing because I thought he died 30 years ago from a stroke in a movie theater.
That's an indecent joke.
Have you been paying attention this whole show?
I like the exposure.
So did Pee Wee. Oh, we're all going to hell.
Let's hope it's nicer than Mount Manitoba. Yeah. All right. Ozzy's up. He gets a single with 2 outs. We bring up Bagwell. And he mentions that Bagwell would have been the first half MVP. They're finally not giving him his love. Here's something I thought was interesting. He says the last time Houston ever elected anybody for the All-Star game was Cesar Cedeno, 21 years ago. Damn.
Wow.
It's interesting because it's funny. Like if we were all 30, right, we would think that Houston was always a great power in the league.
There were a lot of lean years. I want to say the late '80s, and that Mets Astros series comes to mind as being a good series.
Right.
But then after that, it was pretty much downhill from there for a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, Houston was just never that team. But you know, you talk to anyone in 2000, and if they're a Patriots fan,
Right. Right.
you're gonna laugh at them.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny how sports them is. All right. So end of the fourth, 4-1. Gwynn is now moving to his natural position, right field, replacing Justice. Marquise Grissom comes in at center. Hill pitches to Ripken, who goes deep drive up to the left field. Barry Bonds, when he could move, it was a very good defensive play by Bonds. Covers a lot of ground to make the out. Rodriguez bats, and second straight long run by an outfielder. Grissom has a fantastic catch, 2 out. Something that they mentioned Gwynn probably couldn't have done. Not at that position. Chili Davis is brought in. He's pinch hitting for Cone. I don't know how you dislike somebody named Chili.
I had no problems with Chili Davis.
I don't either. But his name Chili. It's just already good. It's like if you're named Chili, Mookie, I like you. How can you be an asshole if your name is Chili or Mookie?
I mean, those are just universally enjoyed names. Beloved right. Names.
I think everyone who's named Joan right now should be so happy that Karen got appropriated. Because that could, what? You shake your head. You think what? What other? Am I not mistaken?
You're not mistaken, Kirk.
All right. Jeez, shake your head at me when I really am saying something stupid. There'll be plenty of opportunity.
I know. Chili Davis.
Hey, well, Chili Davis, this was his last of 3 All-Star games. Really good career. 350 home runs, 2,380 hits. Wasn't a great fielder, but he won 3 World Series. 1 with the Twins and 2 with your Yankees late in his career.
Yeah.
No kidding. Wow.
Yeah. And I think third base coach last year with the Bisons.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, he grounds out to end the inning. That's his only at bat. Middle of the fourth, we get a commercial promo, one of many, for True Lies, starring Arnold Schwarzenegger. Uh-huh.
Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yeah.
Tom Arnold. I think he was in that mix.
I think one of my favorite quotes from that is because Tom Arnold, then he became a star from that, and then somebody asked Roseanne. So like, does it kind of bother you? Like, how do you feel? I mean, like Tom Arnold, he's sort of made it now. Why should I feel bad? I made him.
True. Man, oh man, I forgot about that.
Yeah, that was interesting too. Holy
shit. Marriage made in hell.
Isn't that so interesting? Like Roseanne we talk about people getting canceled. So she was like ripped apart for the national anthem debacle that she did. Nowadays, if she did that, the same people, she would be applauded by some population.
True.
Yeah.
Oh God, so strange. Anyway. Hannah Storm's talking to David Cohn. I didn't write down what piece of office furniture he was. I just wrote down blah, blah, blah.
To his credit, he's gotten very good on his telecasts, and I do like him in the booth on Sunday night.
Oh, okay. I'm not that familiar with his work.
I think he's pretty well respected, but I can't say I've kept a finger on David Cohn's career.
Well, your guy here is pitching bottle guy, Messina. He's third straight All-Star, 5 total. Here's something that blew my mind. He was never an All-Star as a Yankee.
Really?
Yeah. All 5 were in Baltimore. And it's not like Messina wasn't great in New York. He was. So much so that like when he did get into the Hall of Fame, it was a legit question. Are you going to be an Oriole or a Yankee? And he picked neither, as it turned out. But that was a very valid question to ask. But if you just look at a pure all-star, 5-0, doesn't seem right, does it?
No, and I believe he never actually won 20 games for all the success that he had.
Well, they mentioned something that I remember, and I want BG, I want your take on this. They mentioned the controversy because the last year before, Cito Gaston, who was again the manager because they won the World Series in '92, didn't use Messina to pitch, and this was in Camden Yards, so I don't blame them. I remember thinking at the time, a little well, I'm actually my first thought was "fuck you, Baltimore, Cito, Cito, Cito," but the rational part of me said, "Yeah, like what the hell? What the hell are you doing?" So, was there a lot from what you remember of backlash, or just like what's your take on that? Because like that was sort of a petty thing to do.
Yeah, I mean, so I remember that pretty vividly. I was a junior in high school, and I remember we actually did go to Baltimore as a family to see an Orioles game. It was after the All-Star game, and I actually purchased a Cito Sucks T-shirt that they were selling on the street for like $10.
This close to a spit take, but yeah.
Oh, so yeah, I wish I still had it. I think it fell apart, but it literally had, like Justice for Mike on the front, and in the back it said Cito Sucks. And I think even to this day, he is not highly thought of. And supposedly there was a legitimate reason that he didn't pitch Mike Messina. Read something. I can't remember what, but give the fans what they want. I mean, he's a hometown guy, and short of him being injured, even just one batter. I mean, it's the All-Star game. That's what he's there for. It's the only All-Star game Baltimore ever hosted at this stage. So, it would have been nice to see. But yeah, Cito sucks. Cito sucks. Cito sucks.
Okay. Well, Messina does not suck. 270 wins, 2,813 strikeouts. Hall of Fame 2019. I thought he waited way too long for that, in my opinion. I'm sure you agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
Batting is Dante Bichette, first of 4 All-Stars. And when I look at Dante Bichette's numbers overall, Coors Field effect. A lot of power, couldn't do much else. Right place, right time, was 30 when he joined Colorado as an expansion team, won the home run title the year after. 274 career home runs, and almost all of them after 30. His career B WAR for a guy with 274 home runs, 5.6.
Wow.
I was just watching another Jays game, and they were commenting on how much Bo Bichette looks like his dad. Maybe facially.
Not anywhere else.
Not anywhere else. No, my God, no. Bichette gets a bloop single, mostly because Carter he was just playing too deep. You can't blame him for that. That's where you want to play a guy like Dante, so that's not Carter's fault. Gwynn's up to bat, tries to bloop one in front of Carter, but he doesn't quite hit it right, flies out. Bond's up to bat, his third, and the Pirates fan loved it because he struck. Did he strike out? Shit, I didn't even write down how he got out. Struck out. Okay. Piazza up. He fouls out Thomas. End of inning. 4-1. End of the 5th. Drabek's on, and like you were saying earlier, Glenn, here's a former Pirate they do love.
Mm-hmm.
Won the Cy Young in 1990. But saying that, this was his only All-Star game, which is interesting. Alomar singles up the middle. Boggs strikes out, which they mention, as Costas mentions, that doesn't happen too often. He struck out twice today. The replay shows he probably shouldn't have, because it was a called strike 3. And
way out. That was a horrible call.
Euchre even got to do just a bit outside.
Yep.
Griffey's batting now. Alomar steals second. Griffey then singles, and Alomar gets waved home. The ball's cut off, and they get Griffey to run down. But I mean, you got your run, so that's still fine. Thomas gets a 2-out single on the first pitch. Joe Carter, after a few pitches, grounds to third, but Matt Williams, a multi-time Gold Glover, throws over to Garcia, and he overthrows him to get the force out. The ball goes so far in the middle of nowhere But Thomas comes all the way to score. Carter makes it to third. A 3-base throwing error. You don't see much of that. As they're doing more of the replay, they're more or less saying that it wasn't Matt's fault, it was Garcia's fault because he wasn't there.
I don't know about that.
I don't either. And we didn't really get enough replay to sort of see that.
I mean, if you're coming across the bag, it has to be up there because you're trying to find the bag, find the ball. As a third baseman or shortstop throwing a second, you need to get that ball in the position to where he doesn't have to reach for it.
It was still too high, even if it was there anyway. So yeah, they're covering a lot for Matt Williams. Couldn't figure that out. But I wish there was more of an angle on that, but they mentioned it again that basically it wasn't Matt Williams' fault. So I don't know. 4-3. Puckett singles up the middle. Carter scores. 4-4. Tie game. Fergosi comes to the mound. Every time he walked, I sort of like wanted to hear the Godfather music. Is he still alive? Because I think if you were to say I'm going to put a hit on you, I'd believe it.
He's, when he asks you to do a hit and run, it's a little different.
Love it. Well, he comes out to the mound and pulls Drabek for another one of Houston's players, John Hudak. Only All-Star. He's interesting. So he's technically a rookie, but he's 27, made the team, was cut earlier in the year or last year by Detroit and won the closing job after they got Mitch Williams, who, after his implosion in Philadelphia. He was looking for a change of scenery and he was just done. He couldn't do it anymore. So Hudak's an interesting one-year wonder. They say that he's the first pitcher to appear in an All-Star game before he's ever had a win. Because he was 0-2 going into this game.
Wow.
And overall in his career, he'd be 10-15. He's got a career B WAR of 0.3. And he's not the worst player we're going to talk about on this All-Star game, in my opinion. Overall, he'd have 29 saves, but only over 174 games. Well, I'd say this was probably the best moment of his life coming up right now. He strikes out Cal Ripken.
Fair.
Grandpa, you were a baseball player? What's your best thing? I struck out Cal Ripken. Wow.
Who's that, Grandpa?
Yeah.
Or what's baseball?
Yeah.
There might be a reason why I don't really generate a whole lot of under 30 people who watch this. This is the reason I don't have a lot of women watching. But whatever.
But you got the best athlete in West New York. Oh, he attracts the
intercontinental
dynamic.
Female demographic.
Mm-hmm. Who'd you win that from? Was it Steamboat or the Honky Tonk Man? I don't remember.
I think it was the Honky Tonk Man.
There we go.
I took his guitar and smacked him over the head with it.
Well, I told you, Honky Tonk won that title in Buffalo.
I did not know.
He did win that in Buffalo. We see a beer commercial where it actually makes sense. It's four bros, they're golfing, drinking, and rethinking classic rock songs. That makes sense. Let's drink beer. We're guys. We're playing golf. We're talking about old music. There you go. I can wrap my head around that. Randy Johnson comes into pitch. First ballot Hall of Famer in 2014, 303 wins, 4,675 strikeouts. Third of 10 All-Stars, would later win 5 Cy Youngs in a World Series with Arizona. So it is very, very impressive. They show a clip of what he did last year where he overthrew the ball and John Kruk had a heart attack.
I forgot about that. He just flailed at the one and just said, "I'm done." Put his batting helmet on backwards.
Yeah, and like Kruk, who's just like you can see why he would eventually become an analyst. Great entertainer, just sort of takes his jersey like that. It is an iconic moment. I think they said earlier that John Kruk wasn't there, but he really was because Meatloaf was there. I said, I think Casa said that. A lot of changes in the outfield. Bell, Lofton, Sierra are now coming in. Cooper comes in for third, Knobloch at second, and Will Clark at first. Williams flies out, though, for one out. Marquise Grissom is second of 2 All-Stars. He was never an All-Star again, but he did win a World Series with Atlanta the year after. 2,000 hits over his career, so pretty good. They're gushing over Randy Johnson being 6'10". And how do you not? When you look at the size of him, I mean, now a lot of people are even bigger, but there's more like 6'5", 6'6" pitchers, but still, there was nobody or is nobody 6'10".
No, at the time he was it.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a reason why they called him the big unit.
I knew that was coming. I knew it.
Can you imagine though, if you're 6'10", but your penis is average? That's got to be rough. But it's still average. Yeah, but it's on a 6'10" frame. Oh, okay. I'm the only one who thought of this.
Yes.
Thank you, bottle gun. Hey, yeah. Well, you know, as much as they're gushing over Randy Johnson, it's Marquise who's the superstar here. It's a home run. National League takes the lead, 5'4", nice, 5'4". Garcia, who pretty much comes up next to, again, Garcia, they pretty much sort of like laid him out as the worst player ever, according to the announcing team. And his lifetime B-WAR was only 1.0, 580 career hits, but he got a hit here, single up the middle. And the Pirate fans, as I said, they are awesome. And I would imagine for Carlos Garcia, like this is the best moment of his life. I would think.
I mean, yeah, looking back on it, you get a hit off of a Hall of Famer in an All-Star game and the crowd goes wild.
In the town that you're in your best year. And I think this is some of these little things that I just love as we're looking back on it. Not so much a lot with the legends, but also with these ones who either shouldn't be here or they're fluked to be here and they still shine.
Yeah, it's a little like average Joe kind of story, you know.
Yeah, no, it's just great. And Pittsburgh again, hats off to you. Ozzy bats again, and Costas shows that, or says that this is the respect that Pergosi is showing to the shortstop. Again, I think had they known he was going to be here 2 more years and voted in, and he shouldn't have been. When you look at what he did the 2 years after, he was barely playing. But whatever. I mean, if it's Ozzy, it doesn't bother me as much as when Sandy Alomar got voted in 6 times to start as a starting catcher, and he stunk. Ozzy has what we thought was going to be a home run. Sure looked like it, and it would have been a great story. It just went foul, and Ozzy is not known for his power at all. So what a great story it would have been. You think like, too bad, but a better story for Ozzy was going to come later. But we see that Garcia was picked off. He wasn't really. We had no replay back then. 2 years ago, we didn't have replay, but so be it. Ozzy grounds out to third, end of the inning, end of the 6th, 5-4. The commercials, it was what we were watching was a local thing, I think from Philadelphia, and the local news was going to do a story on Kato Kalin.
The one and only.
You're on.
We're going to talk about Kato Kalin and how Kato Kalin, also a softcore porn actor. All this and more at 11.
Oh, the OJ stuff.
That is unbelievable. Oh my God. Hudak is still pitching. Pitching to Irod. We've got some changes. Biggio's in at second. Caminiti at third. Rodriguez singles up the middle. Tettleton is pitch hitting in the pitcher spot. Let's see, second All-Star. He would have one with your team, Baltimore in 1989. 245 home runs over his career, and he draws a walk. We got first and second. No, nobody out.
Hamilton, did he have the most hurtful batting stance known to man?
I remember it being pretty ugly. I think it was a very like straight up kind of.
Like the wrists are back and the bat's parallel to the ground, and he's trying to get around on it. I mean, the only other stance that I could equate to that was Julio Franco, who would go in the other direction with the hands overhead and the bat parallel to the ground going the other way. Just the two.
Old, like,
yes.
like that. Yep.
I immediately thought of that when I saw Mickey Tettleton's starting stance, which just, how does that not hurt your wrists when you're trying to bring it around?
And the weird thing is too, I mean, like as soon as the pitch would be delivered, then he'd go back up.
Yeah, it gets normal. Yeah.
I don't know. Well, it worked.
Yeah, he was in the major leagues.
Yeah.
A lot more games than either of us have played.
That's for sure.
Mm-hmm. Now Chuck Knobloch. Toast of the Town in 1991, Rookie of the Year, World Series champion. This was the second of what would be, I didn't actually, 5 All-Stars, I might be wrong here. Signed with your Yankees in 98, where he fell apart.
Yes, he did.
Especially defensively, forgot how to throw. You see catchers with the yips, you don't see second basemen with the yips.
Yeah, I mean, it's not that far of a throw.
Just whatever, something got in his head. Retired after 2001, 1,839 hits. But going back to that, play the game. Were they taking steroids or did they hit their wife? Well, Chuck Knobloch hit his wife. Not the best game show. No? Well, anyway. He was slated to enter the Twins Hall of Fame in 2014, and they canceled it when they learned that he assaulted his ex-wife. Yeah. Amazing thing is too, like during the whole thing, like they did also one of those inserts how he's like doing this for his sick dad, and when he did the intro, he said like "love you, dad" or something on his love.
Mm-hmm. Hi, mom, get well, dad.
Yeah, and yeah, he gets one in what looks like it's going to be a single. Ozzy is Ozzy. Ozzy has the defensive play of the game. Doesn't even let him get past the infield, and gets Tettleton at second. It was beautiful. Again, the Pittsburgh crowd, they give Ozzy a standing O. It's just great to watch. And again, he's 39.
Wow.
39 still doing this.
And you know, he still did the backflip at the beginning of the game.
The current all-time leader, I don't think anyone's going to touch that, in all-time defensive B-WAR of over 45. No one's touching that.
No, I mean, that's how he got to the Hall of Fame. I mean, it wasn't his offensive stats per se. It was he was a vacuum cleaner at shortstop.
And then you just see this right here. So amazing. Okay. The runners in the corner, one out. They're going to do a pitching change. Danny Jackson enters, the second All-Star, first since 1988, where that year he won 22 games with the Royals. Faces, again, a weird 2-time All-Star, Scott Cooper. But he gets a hit. Opposite field double. Scores Rodriguez, Knobloch to third. Tie game, 5-5. And we get Kenny Lofton to the plate. First of 6 straight All-Stars, would lead the American League this year in hits and stolen bases. I will say that he's a pretty big Hall of Fame snub. And in some ways, I don't know if he did it to himself or just it happened to him. Like, it's hard to put in somebody in the Hall of Fame when they played for 11 teams. And he did. 11 different baseball teams that he played for. Like, he was just like, bouncing around, but you know, like throughout the 2000s. But actually, that's how I got to know Chris Huffman. He followed. Yeah, he followed me because he's a big fan of Kenny Lofton. He's a big baseball guy. So that's sort of how that sort of came to be. Lofton. What else I have? Oh yeah, B-WAR 68.4. They play Lofton shallow, but he pokes through a base hit anyway, like in the infield, so he gets it right over them. Knobloch and Cooper score. American League 7, National League 5. Will Clark is batting. It's his final All-Star game, 6 in total. This one as a Ranger. Previous 5 were with San Francisco. Really good player at his peak. 2,176 hits, lifetime batting average of 300. Gets a single. Lofton gets the second, still only 1 out. And then we have Albert Bell. Oh, surly, cranky, strange, short-tempered. Second of 5 straight All-Stars, and a week later, or a couple weeks later, it was the famous corked bat incident.
Whoa.
So, which even retrospect, it's even funnier. This was basically when a manager could challenge if he thought somebody had a corked bat. He did. So the bat went into the umpire's locker room. They send relief pitcher Jason Grimsley to go get it. And he does, but I guess he went over through, what do you call it? I guess just through the ducts.
Yeah, the air vents.
The air vents.
Wow. Mission Impossible style.
Gets the bat, replaces it with a teammate's. I think it was Paul Sorrento. And they know it's not the same bat. Also, Paul Sorrento's got it autographed.
Yeah, this is the era where you had whatever versions of the players' bats who had their name on it, and oftentimes their autograph. And sure, let's swap out that bat.
So this is from Grimsley himself. This is what he said. So he was the one who did. My first thought is, just get a bat boy to do it. Why are you doing this? Well, they figure out what he did. He cops clean. He gets a 10-game suspension. This, I think, is very important because also Albert Bell went to the Barry Bonds School of Media Relations. And the year after, 95, he was the first player to ever hit for 50 home runs and 50 doubles. Should have been the MVP. He wasn't. Mo Vaughn got it. And as we see a lot in the Baseball Hall of Fame and with writers, they got in their own feelings. Albert Bell, yeah, asshole, yes. 1995 MVP should have been. I think Cleveland went to the World Series that year, did they not?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah. I think so.
Bell was the best player, and a couple years later, corking a bat didn't seem so bad. Because I don't think Bell juiced either. I don't think so.
I don't. There's no rumors circulating with him.
Well, before he can bat, Fregosi comes to the mound, and Ozzy's leaving the game. Will Cordero is going to take his spot. Ozzy gets a good, nice ovation, and Rod Beck and his Fu Manchu are coming in. Beck is a 3-time All-Star. This was his second. 266 career saves, never led the league in saves, but 4 times in games finished. Apparently, he was a really good guy. Everyone seemed to really like him a lot, but a victim of his own excess. Died in 2007. His ex-wife said he was probably over a cocaine overdose, unfortunately.
Gone too soon.
First pitch, love this. Lofton and Smith pull off a super easy double steal, mainly because the ball got away from Piazza. Second pitch is a chopper to Cordero, who reads the field well, throws to Piazza to get Lofton at home. Smith's on third, Bell's on first, 2 out. Batting next is Ruben Sierra. Kind of a forgotten slugger, 306 home runs, 2,152 hits, 20 years. That's a lot. Last of his 4th All-Star games, played until 2006. It's a good career.
That's solid. That is very solid.
Yeah, I guess they made the comment that he was the first member of Roberto Clemente's.
Yes.
I don't know what they called it. Inner Circle or something.
Yeah, because Clemente, they did a great job just doing the tribute to Clemente. For those who don't know, died tragically in 1972 while he was delivering humanitarian aid to victims of an earthquake in somewhere. I want to say Nicaragua.
On an overloaded plane that probably shouldn't have taken off as packed as it was.
Right. So great man in every way in Pittsburgh. knows how to attribute.
Yeah, even Sarah worked for one.
Oh, yeah, I think what it was, he developed something to try and give back to baseball players in Puerto Rico. So I don't know if it was in his name or Clemente actually started it or something, but
It was something revolving around him in Puerto Rico.
yeah, it might not have been through him. So that was 22 years before, so probably not, but it would have been something Clemente would have been all over. What do we got here? Sierra pops up to end the inning, middle of the seventh, 7-5. Johnny Bench is talking to Ozzie Smith, and I think Bench, Ozzie, neither of them really think that he's going to be back, but he was to the All-Star game, that is. Pat Hemken comes on the mound for the American League, second of 3 All-Stars. He would later win the 96 Cy Young, 131 wins. Good career. I remember he was a pretty big deal for us back in the day. One of our, in the rebuilding years, he was sort of the best player, save for when they got Roger Clemens.
Rocking it up, Roger.
There you go. Because that's the other thing. Clemens isn't here. This is when this was it 2 years later, like he won a big deal from Boston, and they said, we think you're done.
Is this when he went over to the Yankees?
No, this when he went over to Toronto, because he would win. Yeah, so then he had his rebound year, and then he was only with the Jays for 2 years, won Cy Youngs in both of them.
Wow, I forgot about that.
Yeah, but then he won. I remember. I'm right about that, aren't I? I think.
Yeah, because he snubbed the Yankees, and my whole opinion was, okay, fuck you. And then he come to the Yankees, 2 years later anyway.
Yeah. His kid's playing at the majors now, Cody, I think with Detroit.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I believe so.
All his kids with the first letter initial of K.
Little obsessed.
Oh, it's a lot better than George Foreman. I'm going to have 5 sons, and I'm going to name them all George. I joked with somebody the other day. I said, like, it's so sad. I think there's like a bunch of 20-year-olds who think that George Foreman was a master chef.
I owned one of those grills. I never got it to work right.
Hulk Hogan, the consummate liar that he is, says that was supposed to be me, but I didn't answer the phone.
Really?
Yeah, he really said that. Apparently, I guess voicemail didn't work back then. It did. Hulk Hogan also said he was asked to be part of Metallica.
I didn't know he was a musician.
Yeah, he was actually legit a bass player. Like,
was he? Okay.
Yeah. But they were not calling for his name anymore. Bagwell gets a single. Will Cordero gets an at-bat. His only All-Star game, 3rd year in the majors, 14-year career, pretty much as a journeyman. Grounded into a double play, 2 out. Win grounds out for the next inning, or for the next at-bat, inning over, 7-5. Cal's batting, and that's when Costa says that he's not yet 34. So like, holy shit.
Wouldn't have thought it. Wouldn't have thought it.
Man. Leadoff double off Beck, who's still pitching. Rodriguez to bat, his 4th time. He will play the whole game. Flies out to center. And your guy, Paul O'Neill, comes up to bat. 2nd of 5 All-Stars. Already was a World Series champion. I always forget that he was with the Reds in 1990.
Yeah.
And he won this year's batting title. For all the talk of everyone else, it was O'Neill who won it, finishing at 359. 2,105 hits, but he would pop up here to Cordero, 2 out, and Knobloch strikes out to end the inning. Middle of the 8th, Wilson Alvarez brought on the pitch. It's only All-Star game. He didn't have a bad career. Bonds at bat. Looks like he was going to drop one in the gap, but Kenny Lofton was Kenny Lofton. He made that look easy. Great leap, out. Piazza grounds out to Knobloch, easy play for him, and they're gushing over his defense. If Costas knew what was going to happen 5 years later, huh? They mentioned how Knobloch had 80 games in a row without an error. That was just broken that Sunday.
Wow.
What happened to this guy? And then
Didn't
you
he
find
like?
out about the other stuff, and then you don't feel so bad.
Yeah. Oh my God. I remember that. I remember him falling apart.
Yeah.
Yeah, tell me about it.
Well, you're
Mhm.
watching that in real time with Giancarlo.
Yeah, yeah. That another waste of money.
Yeah. I like him too. I like Stanton a lot, but
You
unfortunately,
know, and again, was he ever the same after he got hit in the face?
no.
Yeah.
Who is? Mike Tyson was never the same after he got knocked down. It's never the same. Could never get that aura back.
No.
Ken Caminiti, who I talked about earlier, he's our first obvious juicer.
No, you're right. You're right.
Mhm.
He's at his first All-Star game. He's 31, and he's just now putting everything together. So he had a 40 home run year in '96 where he won the MVP when he was with the Padres. So you don't. There's a lot of one-time MVPs. There's not a lot of one-time MVPs who are near 35 when they win it.
Right.
And this isn't. I don't have to say allegedly. He said he did it. He said that he juiced that whole MVP year, did it after. Unfortunately, he was a very obsessive personality. He was hooked on alcohol early, big into cocaine, and he died via a speedball
Mm-hmm.
overdose. So,
Young too, if I remember.
yeah, didn't reach our age, but yeah, really a shame. Flies out to left to end the inning. End of the eighth, 7-5. Randy Myers takes the hill for the National League, and Myers is a really good closer in his day. Doesn't get enough credit. Second of 4 All-Star games, 3-time saves leader, was part of the Nasty Boys in 1990. Rob Dibble won the NLCS MVP, I think, that year. Cooper grounds out. Hannah Storm interviews Ken Griffey, who's already in his street clothes. What the hell?
Yeah. He had reservations.
Dinner plans.
Like, holy shit. I noticed some 1994 fashion here. I thought he was sort of like waiting to do a guest spot in Living Single. Living Single. Living Single. No? Okay, fine.
No, I remember this. I remember it.
We are living single.
I was more in living color. You can do what you want to do in living color.
I was that too, but I have no. I can't work that in here.
Ah.
I could have. I could have said it. I could have said it was going to a rap party for Living Color. That's what I should have done. Lofton strikes out. His bat goes flying. Will Clark gets a single that it ate up Myers and then Biggio. But Bell flies out to Gwen to end the inning, middle of the ninth. Well, is this going to be it? I don't know. Lee Smith comes on to pitch. Eventual Hall of Famer, 2019. When he retired, he was the league leader, all-time leader in saves. 478, All-Star, 6 of 7. Was an Oriole at the time. So
yeah, I was lucky enough during his Hall of Fame year. Me and my buddy just decided we're going to go to the Hall of Fame, and lo and behold, it was one of the weekends where they were bringing back that Hall of Famers did sit and do speeches in their auditorium, and Lee Smith was the Hall of Famer there that weekend. So got to do a Q&A with him. I think I got a photo of him somewhere. He is a big man. I mean, tall, big hand. I mean, the ball just disappears in his hands. But it was really a pleasure to meet him. Really good guy.
Yeah, I always liked him a lot. This wasn't his best outing though. He'd have a lot of greatness and a lot of Grissom is aboard as leadoff batter, walks after a long battle, and that was sort of the trend here. This is the first time we're really seeing long at bats. Is this inning? Biggio the same, another Hall of Famer, 2015, 3,060 hits, third of 7 All-Star games, first of 5 straights. Another long at bat, but he grounds to Cooper at third. They get Grissom at second, but Biggio beats the throw. Very fast guy, like over 400 stolen bases. And the replay shows that pretty much Cooper kind of botched it a little bit. He took a little bit too much time, did one extra step, and Cooper knew it. They showed his face after, and he knew that they didn't get the double play because of his fault. And that really is the difference here. Fred McGriff here on to pinch hit. And as we're doing this, he just became a Hall of Famer this summer. I will argue that the strike cost Fred McGriff a Hall of Fame a lot longer than anyone else.
It probably cost him 500 home runs. Mm-hmm. Usually the guarantee to get into the Hall of Fame. The strike, what cost him 60-ish games?
He retired at 494. So it's very reasonable that in his prime, he would have gotten 6 home runs in the 7 weeks remaining.
Yeah. That's fair.
Yeah. Like there are other factors too. I think the fact that you're playing first base in this loaded era, like Palmeiro and McGriff. Well, I'm not sure about Palmeiro, but I think both of them only had 3 All-Star appearances. That's it.
Wow.
And it's not because of them. It's just because of all the great first basemen in that era. So McGriff didn't stand out. He also played in a lot of different teams. Evan Nolan, my partner in the other show that I do, the weekly show, he always jokes that when McGriff finally got in, the hat should have been that Tom Romanski one, that baseball coaching that he always did. And when you think, but it's true though. When you think about McGriff, I think he went in as a Brave, but I mean, he was never with any team that long.
No, around. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I remember him bouncing around, but I do remember some mammoth home runs. Whether it was with Toronto or Atlanta. And I feel like he never, he finally got the recognition he deserved. I think he just did so well, just played his game, didn't really make much noise, and finally,
right,
he got recognized.
Yeah, from a personality standpoint, he wasn't a me athlete or self-promotion. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you need that to get yourself into the Hall of Fame, if that's your goal.
And also at that point, you don't even know whether you're going to be considered at that level. I mean, I think at this time, it's 94, we got 3 people we know for sure that feel like they're going to be. Well, Cal Ripken we know is going to go in the Hall of Fame. Oh, sorry, no, there's more. So Cal Ripken we know is going to go in the Hall of Fame if nothing else happens. Tony Gwynn is going to go in the Hall of Fame. I guess Kirby, but I don't even know if that's how they felt then. But Frank Thomas and Ken Griffey Jr. were the 2 special players. Greg Maddux too. Randy Johnson wasn't that special guy yet.
No, in fact, they were thrilled that he was, hitting 93 on the gun, and his velocity would increase further.
Mm-hmm. Well, McGriff, and I'm so happy because I didn't tell you this. I didn't know the results of this. I don't remember. I don't think I watched it. So usually everything we ever do, Glenn, I already know what's going to happen. I didn't have a clue.
Oh, so, I honestly didn't know either.
So, because when you and I picked it, we just picked it because of the era. The fact that a great game broke out was even better.
Yeah, we wanted to see steroids. We wanted to see how they were gonna handle the upcoming strike, and we got a good game to boot.
We did. Well, McGriff goes deep, takes Lee Smith deep, and it just felt like it was going to happen. The way Costas was sort of talking about McGriff, and that's what we got. 7-7, we got a tie game.
Well, that the manager did say, I'm holding McGriff back for this, which is crazy. That, obviously these guys do pre-production. They're talking to the managers. And, this is only an all-star game, but for someone to specifically say, yeah, McGriff's going to be my guy late in the game if some situation pops up because I think he's going to do it.
And that's why they do that pre-production. The production here, I thought, was really, really good. We've seen some shit production. And 94, I think I'm pretty happy with what we're seeing.
Sure, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
I was pleasantly surprised by the quality.
Yeah. Bagwell is up next. So can they win it here in the 9th? Hits it to Knobloch, who makes a fantastic play, driving to get the grounder, throw it Bagwell. Cordero grounds out, and we have extra innings. All right, top of the 10th. Doug Jones is pitching. Last of his 5 All-Star games. Another really good reliever that I forgot all about, and I shouldn't. 393 career saves. It's funny who you remembered, who you don't. And Jones is one of those guys. Maybe if he played for one of my teams, like, or in my radar, right? Ruben Sierra's up, gets a line drive single. Ripken strikes out, 1 out. Ivan Rodriguez singles. We got runners on first and second with 1 out. Travis Fryman comes to the bat. I remember seeing him about 20 years ago. The only game I went to in Cleveland. When he was, I guess, Cleveland's best player. I think it was Travis Fryman bobble at night. I could be wrong. And Buck O'Neill was there throwing out the first pitch. I think he was there.
Wow.
I don't know if he was throwing out the first pitch, but and they, if I remember correctly, they were wearing Negro League uniforms on the throwback. I could be mistaken on that. I may or may not have had a beverage or two, but I do know Buck O'Neill was there, so that was pretty cool.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. Third of 5 All-Star games, 223 home runs, 1,776 hits. So pretty good player. He hits it. He gets a good hit, but Gwynn gets it by the track. Good enough for Sierra to tag. So we got runners in the corners with 2 out. Knobloch bats, but he strikes out. Middle of the 10th, 7-7. Now we have our worst player of the game, Jason Beret.
This is where I was going to bring up Prince's raspberry beret, but I couldn't get it to load real quick.
Oh.
Well, he was the kind you'd find in a secondhand store.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Amazingly, this guy, I was looking at his career. This blows my mind. He was second for the Rookie of the Year in 93, went 12-2 this year, but his whip was over 1.4. He remained in the league till 2003, managed a winning record lifetime of 71-65, but his B-WAR is under 4. His lifetime ERA is 5.14, and his lifetime whip is 1.549. What the hell?
How did you get that many games?
Wow.
How are you this shitty, or you're just this lucky? Beret must be French for le horseshoe up, le poop shoot. This guy, how the hell?
Yeah, he's got some pretty bad. I mean, yeah, after 94, yeah, I mean, he peaked early.
Well, even 94, he was just lucky. Like I guess Frank Thomas just said, yeah, I'm gonna hit a few out. He was Paul O'Neill for the Seinfeld episode. I will hit 2 for you.
Well, again, I mean, and again, we're talking 94. So I mean, statisticians, they weren't going into the numbers.
No.
I want to say during the telecast when they were talking about Frank Thomas on how maybe you should swing at more balls to either get more home runs, get more RBIs. And I mean, that's what today's analytics are about.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're not so much about the average. It's about what you're doing when you put the ball in play and what happens versus your average or walks. And I don't know if Bob Uecker realized that he was embarking on something that's going to pop up further on where, yeah, we want you to swing at more balls because we don't care about your average. We want home runs. We want RBIs. We want you to put runners in scoring position. So that was kind of the thing on the hitting side. On the pitching side, yeah, Beret's stat line, I mean, this is just an example of where your wins and loss. I mean, he was 12-2, like you said, and that doesn't really tell the whole story. And it took scouts and GMs a whole generation to figure that out.
You know, some stats, I'm a stat geek, but some I can't completely understand. I talk about B-WAR like I'm an expert. I'm not, but some things are just always been there, and we didn't really look at it, like whip.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how was that not a bigger thing earlier? OPS, how was that not a bigger thing earlier? Slugging was always there, but when we were kids, the sexy stat for a pitcher was wins. The sexy stat for a hitter was home runs and batting average. Home runs still is. Batting average, not so much.
No, they want to see that on base percentage plus slugging in the 800 range for you to be considered good. And you can do that with a 260 average.
Like if you go to a game, well, when you're going to your Bison's games, right? You probably cheer louder for a walk than you would if you were there 30 years ago.
No, I mean, we're cheering for walks.
Yeah, but just louder, right? But it's a bigger deal. Also, same conversely, like, all right, our starting pitcher just made 5.1 innings. We didn't do that then.
No.
Holy shit. Like, all right, he made it. He made it. He's now qualifies for that win that we don't care about. It's so different.
Like I keep hearing about like WRC plus. I listen to some Orioles podcasts that always talk about WRC plus, and even I gotta like look it up and see what it means. I mean, the stats, like I said, that I thought of, were good growing up, have completely changed.
Yeah, and that's sort of like when we look at guys like even when we talk about Kenny Lofton. Lofton at some point is going to get another look. His advanced stats are incredible. But when he was on that ballot, I can see what they were looking at, what they thought they were missing, right? And we look at some of these great one and done players who never got into the Hall of Fame. Lou Whitaker is the best example of that. One and done on the ballot. I think my favorite pitcher who was a one and done on the reliever thing is John Franco.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
So, but he was one and done. To be fair, though, I look back at that ballot that he was on, that he debuted on. It was a hard ballot for anybody because it was one of the most loaded ballots I ever saw. But I'll let everyone look that up. I'm not going to go into all that. Anyways, I shit on Beret enough. My guy Tony Gwynn's batting, hits a chopper out of Knobloch's reach. Gwynn gets to first. Moises Alou batting for the first of 6 All-Star games, 332 home runs. But for me, he's always going to be the guy who pretty much pointed the finger at Steve Bartman.
Yep.
And
forgetting all the comedy of errors that led up to that moment.
And after.
Yeah.
And even during, while everyone was reaching, but there's only one guy with the head huggers and the nerd glasses. And he was by himself. Like, I remember watching that one live thinking like, oh shit, this guy's life's forever changed. Good on him, because he just moved and has never done an interview since, or ever. Never did one.
It helped that the cameras never got off of him for the rest of that game.
No. Didn't the Chicago mayor at the time say, look, we got to find this guy or something to that effect?
I can't remember that verbatim, but there was a lot of stuff along those lines going on within Chicago.
It was Bill Buchner 2.0, because also people don't remember there was still another game.
Yeah. No, you're right.
Yeah. Alou, though, did have a World Series championship with the Marlins in 1997. Still can't believe the Marlins are a 2-time World Series champions.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about that.
Yeah, he hits it off the gap. Extra bases for Alou. They're waving up. This is the main hit. They're waving Tony home. He's safe at home. Game is over. I didn't see a replay of this though.
It was tough because I don't know whether or not you watered down the little dirt patches in an artificial turf stadium, but when the slide began and all you saw was a cloud, saw his foot may have gotten in there. And you can't really go by Pudge's reaction because he's obviously going to think that he made the tag. But there was no clear view on whether he got in. I know Euchre said, well, there's his foot, he's in there. I'm like, really? But, I mean, the call was made. They won the game. It was a very exciting game. And good on Tony booking around the bases. Yeah. I mean, again, we talked about him not being the most athletic appearing person out there. But when he got going, he got going.
Yeah. And then the fireworks go off. So, I mean, well, we're not doing a replay. And this was not in that brief, dumb era where It counts. Stupid. That was. And end of game. This was a lot of fun for me. Holy blast from the past. Just a lot of early 20s memories for me.
Sure, I don't think I was quite legal then. And probably watching I couldn't have a beer or anything out at the bar, so I was probably watching it at home.
Yeah, no, I was a senior in high school, and that's when I was glued to my TV watching baseball. I watched it more than, like, we were saying, more than football, more than basketball. And, going through that era, seeing the commercials brought me back and seeing these names of players that, like I said, I had forgot about. Ricky Bonus, Jimmy Key, Lee Smith, really took me back. It was a real nice trip down memory lane, and seeing Cal play again, even if he didn't have the best game, it was a nice added feature.
And then just looking at the stats that were coming in on this season, I mean, the strike probably destroyed what was going to be one of the best Major League Baseball seasons to date. And yeah, I mean, we discussed earlier, did it ruin the Expos? I mean, it may have helped if they were probably going to leave anyway. Did it keep them from getting their first and only World Series? Possibly. You got to win games to get there. But yeah, I mean, we lost the 400 season for Gwynn. Maris's record may have fallen. I mean, you got three guys approaching it that were at that time all-star hitters. Yeah, I mean, it was a stolen season. I know that summer we had plans to go to Cleveland and see the Yankees. Of course, that was going to be at the end of August, which obviously got taken out. So that was another bummer of that era. But yeah, the memories were great. Did baseball ever recovered? Probably not.
I don't think so. I mean, like, let's talk about, like, I guess go back to the aftermath. So we have this strike carried over so much for that. There's something that a lot of people don't remember. In '95, they started with replacement players in spring training.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
And that didn't stay long. Eventually, they did come up with something. So it was still an abbreviated 144 game season. So I guess going back to McGriff, which I just thought about now. So he lost about another 15 games.
Yeah, he could have got home runs.
Yeah. So, I mean, he's finally in now, but it's they lost so much. Everyone was pissed off. I remember being pissed off. There was a Saturday Night Live skit. I tried to find it, I couldn't. And it was like one of the ones at the tail end of the show, like when usually they put the shit on after. And it's like, okay, it's now going to be a cruise, and you'll be here with whatever major league player, and then a bunch of other major league players, and a bunch of them showed up. Why are you joking about this? Like, you're wrecking my favorite sport at the time.
Right.
Yep.
And it isn't now. I mean, for me personally, baseball, I mean, again, as a Jays fan, that might have been played a lot into it, because it was like 94, 95, right? It's still 2 years removed from when baseball ruled Toronto. But now, as good as the Jays are, as good as a buzz as they have, they fight for number 2 with the Raptors in Toronto.
Wow. I always thought it was Maple Leafs number 1 and everybody else just sort of.
Well, Maple Leafs are number 1, but at the time, like, because the Leafs were crap in the 80s.
Oh,
utter crap. And then they had a decent run in '93 where they made the Western Conference Final. But the Jays won the World Series in '92, and then they won in '93. And as Canadians back then, I mean, this is just my opinion. Other Canadians might disagree with me, but a lot of Canadians measured themselves through what the United States thought of us. Hockey was already ours. Baseball wasn't. So, Jasper, are you commenting? Yeah?
He thinks the Leafs suck.
He's got a lot to say. So it was a pretty big deal. Like, it was more like the media was all about the Jays more than the Leafs. It took a while for the Raptors to sort of like even get their footing when it came with that. So, but Toronto's a very diverse city, maybe the most diverse city in North America. So Raptors are a bigger deal, I think, for a lot of people than anything else. So I don't know if the Jays are even number 2 in Toronto in terms of fandom and just overall popularity. I don't know. When the
No,
Jays,
what? Go ahead.
I was going to say, what happened, I think, for a lot of people like Toronto, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on your point of view, views themselves as the center of Canada. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I don't know. But when the Jays sort of went into rebuilding mode and said, like, we can't compete with the New Yorks and later the Bostons, and they said, yeah, we're small market. Toronto fans don't view themselves as small market.
And you really shouldn't.
They did, because they couldn't. You got to remember too, like, this is back then. You're paying your players in American dollars, but all your revenues in Canadian. Now with the revenue sharing and the TV deals, it's totally different. So like living here in Winnipeg, right? The Jets can survive. There'll always be small market, but they can survive regardless of our dollar. Couldn't then. So with like a 70-cent dollar, and you're paying so and so really $1.30. Mm-hmm. They were at that point smaller market. Jays fans don't want to hear it, and I think that's a bit of that Toronto arrogance, a little bit. Like, I was surprised that TFC, the Toronto Soccer, did as well as they did, because I thought, okay, well, people here, they're not gonna like take that. I misjudged the love of a lot of people for soccer.
And you gotta, I mean, what's the Toronto metropolitan area's population? I mean, you're well over 1 million.
But Metro would be like 3.
Okay. So that's a lot of people. So there's a lot of people that want to see something. Yeah.
So it's not like they don't do well, but just in terms of overall fandom, I'm not even sure the Blue Jays are number 2 in Toronto right now. But 93, even though it's Canada, that was not the case. Or 94. The Jays owned Toronto. They owned it.
Yeah, I remember that.
And I'm sure that's the case in other cities too. Trying to think of other ones that might be perfect for that. I'm sure it didn't do well for Pittsburgh. But I guess the Pirates are always second to the Steelers anyway. But then the Penguins were red hot.
Yeah, the Penguins in the early 90s. I mean, they got their cups in 91 and 92, I think.
That sounds about right.
Yeah.
The Lemieux years.
Yeah. Like, there was a city that almost gave up on them. They were about to be relocated twice, I think.
Well, yeah. I mean, between them not playing well in that arena they were in, that not a good factor for them to stay. And yeah, Mario Lemieux saved the franchise
multiple times.
Yes.
And as an owner, owner/player. It's something on memory. Oh my God, we've gone a long time. Holy shit.
The only other thing that I found, well, I don't want to say disturbing, but galls me, was the Bud Selig segment where they pointed to him, obviously with labor strife coming up, and I just, how he's in the Hall of Fame by allowing this league to go on strike. And then further on, when he wanted to dissolve the Minnesota Twins, small market team, but save his Milwaukee Brewers, another small market team, just galled me. And I would spit in his face if I saw him walking down the street.
And he oversaw the PED years.
I mean, yeah, and he's in the Hall of Fame.
There are legit some voters who openly said, all right, well, if the senior committee is going to, or veteran committee is going to put him in, and he oversaw this, I guess I'm voting for Bonds and Clemens now. There were writers who legit said that.
Yeah, and it's fair. It's more than fair.
It totally is. All right, well, I've kept you guys for a few hours, so this is where I do my plugging. I plug this bottle guy. I plug other shows that I do.
Go for it.
Yeah, there's the weekly show. Glenn Paslawski actually was a special guest on that one. That was sort of it's a weekly Hall of Fame show where I talk about Hall of Fame stuff. That's where I don't know why Glenn brought this up, but he talked about a show about herpes. That was really disturbing.
Herpes,
Well-rounded.
we called it.
Well, okay. Glenn didn't bring it up, but he let me go with it. It was a game show idea I have, a dating show where you take 12 attractive men, you take 12 attractive women, and you sort of like let them just sort of like do things for a week on some nice island or whatever. And then a week later, the game show host. Because I think I'd be excellent in that capacity as a game show host.
I can see the natural fit. I mean, I love it. If I had money, I'd invest in it.
So after a week, it's like, okay, are you here for money? Are you here for love? Are you here for adventure? Now, here's the real game. One of you entered this island with a secret. And every week, we're going to eliminate one person who's not affected. And now we're going to learn who has herpes.
Herpes Island. Yes.
Right, because like at the end of because like hopefully they sort of did things, and then you're sort of like mathematicians will love it. I mean, it's sort of like advanced things that you're sort of like doing like a diagram here, trying to figure out who hooked up with who hooked with who. No, this could work.
Brilliant. I can't wait to see that on CBS.
I think the Learning Channel might pick that up, or TLC. I said that to somebody the other day. It's like, like so all these garbage shows are on things that had a better originally this grand plan. What do you mean TLC? What do you think that actually stands for? It blew their mind. Was it's the Learning Channel? That's what it is. That's what it was called originally.
Herpes Island on the Arts and Entertainment Channel.
Now on ESPN.
Hey, it's a Disney network. They never go for something like that.
Season 2, syphilis. Season 3, who was actually born with a large tail. I mean, that can kind of creep you out in its own way.
I think you got something there.
I do. I totally have something. Now that I've given this out for free. I've given this out for free, so I don't know. Whamp, whamp. Other shows is where I look at how the hell was this a hit? Tomorrow we're going to be recording De Etre Bebe. I told you about, I think, that last time. So we look at weird songs that become hits. You ever heard of that one, Bottle Guy?
That one I have not heard of.
Yeah, that went #1 in France. Was a big hit in Europe, and it was sung by a 4-year-old.
Oh,
It's tough to be a baby. Sure enough, his parents exploited him, and he grew up with at age 18 with nothing.
big surprise! Big surprise.
Yeah, didn't. Yes, Jasper. He's the Gary Coleman of French music. There's also the retro football show where we look at past Super Bowls and major games. In the NFL, Super Bowl 10 will be recorded tomorrow, so look for that. And we're going to be doing. That's actually a really fun game to watch. I got to watch my first Up With People halftime show. Terrible, awful. And also there's Vinny Lospinuso. He makes a Hall of Fame case for sometimes some random people. The last one did that for is Don Cherry. So check that out, all here in the Buchnerverse. With that said, wherever you are, wherever you may be, thank you so much for sticking through all of this. I know that Glenn can be a little annoying, but
of course,
it's a given. It's part of his charm,
right,
as we say.
But thank you so much. Wherever you are, wherever you may be, stay safe, everyone. And in the words of the French people, I bid you adieu. Adieu.
Adieu.
Fromage.
Fromage. We do a lot of fromage. All right. Take care, everyone.
Later.